You guys hear that? You guys hear that? It's Monk being OP, but not on retail, on MOP Classic, as we have concluded the long-awaited wait for new content, but not on retail. MOP Classic launching probably yesterday, whenever you're watching this. Wish you're gonna play MOP Classic at all? Interested at all?
No, dude, the timing sucks.
Okay, what is this timing, by the way? Like, what? Why did they release it 3 weeks before content comes out on retail? What happened?
I have a theory about it. Growl, do you have thoughts?
I think they messed up. I think they wanted to release it sooner, maybe. I don't know the exact situation, but yeah, it makes no sense. I actually, I'm sitting in Ogrimmar right now, waiting for it to release, and I plan on playing. I just told some people I was gonna raid with them, but I was kind of thinking it was gonna be like a end of the patch, like downtime thing. But literally, it's coming out like the same time as retail coming out, and now I'm raiding 7 days a week. So I'm really excited about that.
Wait, you're raiding 7 days a week?
Basically, yeah. We're doing 4 prog days on retail, and then 2 days on MOP, and then the other day is probably going to be like something else.
The raid release is what? Next week or the week after?
I don't know. I think it's in a week, but it might be 2.
Because then, like, 2 weeks from now is the retail patch. 1 week after that is the season launch. So,
This feels like they're stepping on one another's toes a lot.
Just a little. But my theory is that they were forced to do this. You know, people are saying, why not push back? Why not push back the retail season? I think the answer is they need this patch to be wrapped up story-wise before Gamescom. Otherwise, they're going to spoil Gamescom.
It's so interesting because I was thinking about this earlier. Ghost of Koresh is actually coming out relatively early relative to what other patch cycles we've been getting throughout Dragonflight and War Within. It's coming out a little bit earlier than the last couple have, and maybe you are right in that regard, where it has to be wrapped up before Gamescom. I didn't really think about that.
Because theoretically, in the past, we usually get the expansion reveal at a BlizzCon or something big, but it's usually before the last patch of the season. We know what the expansion is going to be about before the last patch, which usually means we can kind of piece together how the story ends. I wonder if they're trying to change that, and there's going to be some reveal or something like that this time around.
Are you going to Gamescom?
No. The timing sucks, man.
Dude, that's oh my god, timing everything is just like all at the exact same time. Like if Gamescom was a little bit further away from the patch too, I would consider it, but like oh my god.
Yeah, the timing isn't great.
I mean, nobody's saying delay retail. I mean, no offense to my Classic friends, I play Classic too, but dude, just delay MOP Classic then, who cares? Like, make them wait another 2 months.
I think MOP Classic was supposed to probably should have been like 4 or 5 weeks prior to this, right?
Also, what in the world are they going to do? I'm pretty sure when they first announced Classic, like Vanilla in 2019, the idea was like the dream was that they would make it to Wrath of the Lich King and you could relive all 3 of the expansions. And back then, the idea of Classic Kata was kind of a joke. Like, people were like, oh, you know, that's when the game got shitty. No one's going to want to play that. And now here we are, not even in Kata Classic, but in MOP Classic. And we're right next door to WAD Classic, which, I mean, I didn't play
Nobody
WAD,
wants to play WAD Classic.
Okay,
so let me
so
just tell
there
you.
were some good raids, though.
Nobody wants to play
good raids.
Okay, there were some good raids in WAD, but nobody wants to relive WAD. Like okay, come on now.
I mean, would WAD have been better if the content wasn't spaced out? Because, like, part of the hate towards WAD was, 1, garrisons, which I agree with. 2, the fact that we were in Hellfire Citadel for 14 months.
And there wasn't... The problem that I have with Warlords is that there wasn't anything to do outside of raid. Not even necessarily... Okay, and this is when I started WoW, so I was enamored with, like, the open world and, you know, looking at all the zones and stuff like that. But there really wasn't anything content-wise outside of doing the raid, which I thought was the biggest issue with Warlords.
I mean, they could just speedrun it, maybe. That could be interesting.
That's kind of what I was hoping for, at least, because most people didn't really say that many negative things about WAD, other than just there's a lot of downtime.
Yep.
I don't know if I wonder if this is where they take the OSRS approach, where they separate out what the game became. You know, they don't actually follow the same line.
I mean, what if they did like Mythic Plus, like
In
actual
WoD?
Mythic Plus in WoD? Yeah, like just you have the raid and stuff like because like they had some banger raids. Hellfire Citadel actually a good raid, right? Like, then you had Blackrock Foundry.
That's an all-time raid. That's my favorite raid of all time.
Like that's a great raid. You know everybody remembers Operator
Operator
Thorgar,
yeah,
the train
yeah.
boss.
Blackhand, I
There
think
was
is
some
Blackhand's my favorite boss. That boss
Blackhand is fantastic. You were a Boomkin, of course you like that boss.
it's a great boss. Like I don't know.
Like I think people would play it for the raids, and they could announce it and like under the assumption that they're gonna speed through it a little faster, and maybe they're already doing changes, right? They're doing class tuning on MOP Classic, so they could just like add on some of their own like unique dungeon stuff and to kind of add to it, and then kind of speed through it a little faster.
I think they're starting to get into kind of interesting waters with what you were saying earlier about like class changes and whatnot. I think that's I don't think it's problematic, but I do think it starts to call into question what more are they willing to do.
I think the end of 2026 is going to be really interesting for Classic because we had Season of Discovery, which everyone is kind of saying that was like the testing grounds for, Classic Plus or whatever. On top of that, we have in China, they released these like weird new anniversary servers that are basically like faded except for the first 3 expansions, and there's like random raids each week and all the raids are tuned up. And there's the first BlizzCon in a long time, right? So I kind of feel like they're cooking up. It's probably going to be quiet for Classic for a while after MOB comes out, but then there's going to be probably something pretty big, I'd imagine.
What is up with the China 20th anniversary servers? You kind of loosely hit on that. What exactly are they doing?
So I don't know exactly, but basically it's like it's kind of retailified Classic as well, but it's basically just like everything is scaled up, including the gear. Like all the raids are normalized essentially, so they're all supposed to be like the same level of difficulty and drop the same level of gear. And it's like, I don't know if it's like random or there's a rotation or what, but you're just going through random raids every week. Like every week when the reset happens, it could be any raid from vanilla classic or vanilla TVC or Wrath, which is like, I don't know how that would work, and I don't know if I would want to play that, but it's an interesting idea, right? Like again, I just want to keep pointing out that I like that they're cooking. They keep trying new stuff.
I don't think it'd work for retail. I mean, we've played Faded. It wasn't like that great. And we've seen how, Blackwing Lair and stuff like that worked or whatever. But I don't know. Is this what Classic players want? Like, is this something that Classic players, I guess, would be more interested in?
Well,
Yeah.
So there's 2 different groups of Classic players, right? There's the Classic players that like really, really, really like the old school, vanilla and want the game to be more like vanilla. And I don't necessarily think Season of Discovery or any of these things are what they would want per
Those
se.
are the people who are playing like hardcore every single season.
Yeah,
that hardcore
people
launches.
playing hardcore, people playing anniversary like Classic or whatever. But there is a group of people now. I mean, it's been so long since all the expansions come out. There are these people that just play Classic because it's cheaper and because it's easier and because they've never played the expansions are good, right? Like, people love MOP, people love Wrath of the Lich King, people loved all these expansions. So, like, they're just, it's like re-releasing a game that was already good for a bunch of people that never got the chance to play it before. And I think those sorts of people who just like to play new MMOs or want to play MMOs might enjoy something like that. Yeah.
What's the tinfoil hat? What are they doing next? What do we think they're doing next with Classic?
Jeez. I would like to see. I don't know. I kind of feel like they're gonna do something like Season of Discovery again, or like some sort of like big changing class. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of done all the obvious things now with like Season of Discovery and then re-releasing all the old expansions, and then now it's like, okay, well now they got to do something big.
We had MOP remix and now we have Legion remix soon too.
Yep.
Which is also weird that like MOP Classic is coming out and we just had MOP remix. So like I lived my MOP adventures for the most part through MOP remix. I think the only things that would be fun to do is specifically the raid, but doing the raid isn't just doing the raid. You have to gear up and like do all the dungeons. Like there's a whole extra time sink that comes. You can't just raid for the sake of raiding in Classic. You have to do the other stuff, right? So
Kind of. I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean, obviously, like leveling up and gear, like getting gear and stuff. But I don't think, like, I think raid logging is pretty reasonable in Classic. I don't think you have to like really min max everything. If you just want to like play more casually. But yeah, there's definitely like an upfront time investment of getting your guy to level
Yeah.
90 and all that, getting your dungeon gear and stuff.
like I would love to do Throne of Thunder. Like Throne of Thunder was a fantastic raid, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that raid.
So do you want to really redo Throne of Thunder, or do you want to relive that experience that you had when Throne of Thunder was current?
I would like to actually redo Throne of Thunder because I only did on 10-man hard mode or heroic or whatever it was. Was Mythic?
No,
when did
it
they
was
swap to
heroic.
Mythic?
Mythic
was heroic? Okay.
Mythic was Siege of Orgrimmar at the very end of Siege of Orgrimmar. The first season of WoD was like the first real Mythic.
Okay, so I did 10-man. So I would love to see 25-man. Because that's around when I started to transition to 20. I started 25-man at Siege of Orgrimmar.
Okay.
So I never did the 25-man version of it.
All right. Monks aside, we have more monk news. Blizzard was listening to last week's episode of the podcast, and they decided that Mystic Touch was, we were correctly pointed out, buffing it doesn't actually solve the problem that you hope it does. Instead, they took it back to 5% physical damage with the dev note of, our goals for the Mystic Touch buff were to better equalize it in raid to other similar buffs and give a small nudge to physical comps in Mythic Plus. We hear the community concerns about this change and how it might affect the viability of physical damage dealers, and because of these concerns, we will be reverting the buff. No complaints here. I mean, I think that this was the right call.
Yeah, everyone was a little bit confused. I mean, it sort of made sense, right? Like, if you look at the numbers, it wasn't necessarily the best buff in raid, but and again, like, they haven't really talked about their whole purposes with raid buffs, but it served its purpose, right? Like, it's not like you would just walk into raid without a monk.
Exactly.
Like, you absolutely wanted to have a monk. I have the suspicion that they had this, wanted to like buff physical comps and M plus just because like mage, boomkin, magic DPS have been meta. It feels like every single season, and I feel like they wanted to just like buff phys comp, but the community kind of was like, "What are you doing?" And they kind of just backed down because I don't think they were really that. Like, I don't think it was that important of a change anyway.
I think the best way of buffing phys comp is just making warrior. If you made warrior the best DPS, or maybe prot the best.
Honestly,
tank.
or tank too, right?
Yeah.
Or Marks Hunter or BM Hunter. Like the problem with all the physical specs, I think we mentioned this last week, is just like they all have this really big downside. Whether it's like target cap or something like that, like it's just odd.
You can beat the target cap if you just overtune the hell out of them, but like, it's they're not really in the business of doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you look at all the casters, they're like, rather 20 targets, like 20 target soft cap, Warriors hard 5, and you're just like, okay, well,
I don't think that
already then.
I don't think the target cap really stops a spec from being like overtuned, but I think they definitely have the most amount of things working against them. So if they're equally tuned to something else, yeah, of course they're gonna just end up inherently being worse.
Yeah, they legitimately have to be overtuned. I mean, when was the last time DPS Warrior was in a comp?
Never.
Exactly. Exactly. What was the last time a hunter was in a comp?
Serve Hunter, end of Shadowlands, I think. You're talking like the best thing that you could be doing in a composition.
Yeah, like in the god comp for the season.
Serve Hunter, end of Shadowlands.
Okay. Which basically, like my point is, instead of trying to buff Mystic Touch, the problem seems to be in the fact that Fizz DPS just sucks in Mythic Plus. Like, dude, is never meta.
You know what's so funny? The end of Dragonflight, the last season, or the third season of Dragonflight, not the fourth season of Dragonflight, the third season of Dragonflight, there was a composition, like, so one of the best DPS on that patch was Outlaw Rogue. But the problem with Outlaw Rogue is that they didn't have a comp that they could play. So, you know what the best Outlaw Rogue comp was? It was 3 Outlaw Rogues and a Mistweaver Monk and a Vision Demon Hunter. That's what they played. They just played with one another because all the other physical DPS just fucking sucked. So they were like, well, I guess we're just going to team up.
Yeah. I don't know like what exactly their goal here was. I'm glad they listened to feedback there, but What is this?
Are the classes that got nerfed by 3% after Mystic Touch nerf going to get compensated? So the day after...
What a fucking thread. What a thread.
Obviously, a feral druid wrote this. The whole point was to make the physical comps more competitive, yet a lot of physical classes just lost 3% damage with no compensation. What an insanely funny take.
I love the word compensation. I don't remember. I'm just trying to remember what it was, but I remember making a comment about. I don't remember. It had something to do with Mage. It was something about Mage having like 10 defensives, and then someone responded to my comment about, well, if you're gonna remove Mage defensives, what are you gonna give them as compensation? It's
Oh
like,
my
bro,
God.
that's not. You're missing the point here. Like the point is that there's too many things. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is why I think a lot. Well, here's the thing. I think we take for granted that we've been around the block a bunch of times, and so we understand the PTR cycle. And like, while we might pay attention to what classes are good, we know it doesn't really matter. But I do think a lot of people don't quite understand. Maybe they haven't been around enough, or they didn't. They don't even pay attention to PTR until now. And they see these changes. Oh, 3% here. Oh, 8% buff. Okay, 14% nerf, and they're like freaking out, losing their minds as if this was like something on live. But it is just not how. Like PTR is just. It is a whirlwind of crazy balance that honestly you should like not worry about at all if you're just a normal person playing the game.
Squishy, when would you look at like, okay, so in theory, if this happened 4 weeks from now, Blizzard would probably be looking to compensate buff all the specs that were negatively affected.
Yeah.
However, we're not there.
Right now, we're like at a 50% delta. I'm pretty sure, if not more.
Yeah.
And 3% is a drop in the bucket and will not matter in the grand scheme of things right now. Like,
what week would it have to have been for this change to go in for specs to actually
2
start
weeks
seeing
after
compensatory?
the patch launches.
Okay,
that
there we
seems to
go.
be about when they get class 2ing right.
Yeah, sure. Okay, there we go. Like if this happened even after August 5th, before the content came out, I would not expect any compensatory buffs because, frankly, nobody knows what class tuning is going to look like yet. Like, it's really hard to actually tell class tuning until the content truly comes out. Like, everybody loves a tier list because tier lists are goated content, but but like, realistically, nobody really knows until you actually start seeing how the meta is shaking up.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many meme tier lists. Not real. I mean, I don't know. I know the content creators, and I know they're mostly doing them just because people want to see them, and they don't, they don't really care. But like, how many tier lists have there come out over the last month that are just the most invalid, useless pieces of crap now? Because it's like, oh, this class is super good. Oh, it's nerfed 30%. Oh, now it sucks. Like, I don't know. It's just so. I mean, I know it's fun. Like, but it's, I don't know. But I just hope that people don't get too worked up or like worried about it or whatever.
Like right now, every week that goes on, they're doing class tuning essentially. And I saw a JB tweet that was like, it's insane that they do like class tuning every week or something like that on PTR. I don't remember exactly what the quote was.
I'm pulling it up.
But either way, like they do class tuning all the time right now. And right now we have a massive delta between specs, but they're slowly starting to shrink that delta. And they're going to shrink that delta. They're going to shrink that delta until they get to launch. It'll probably still be like a 10% delta. Then they'll fix it a week or two after. But yeah, this is the JB tweet. He says, "I like the part of PTR where balancing happens every week. Imagine if that happened all the time. Like if it was someone's full-time job to do that. Wow," with a lot of heart emojis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, they're sort of getting into the territory of like, I don't want to say balancing too much, but like I consider last season's balance really, really good. And like I just worry that like they overthrow classes or like change what's good in the middle of the season. I feel like that would be very annoying. I mean, it's one thing if a class is OP, like obviously they need to nerf it. And I think every once in a while, some classes sneak through the cracks a little bit and they sit around for a while and everyone's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, how do they do this? But for the most part, I think balancing is like pretty good. Like they've been pretty active in the first month or two of patches nowadays, like the last few tiers that I can remember, where I don't think things really sit that out of control.
Yeah, things don't really sit out of control. A lot of people, when they talk about class balancing, though, what they're really saying is that they want to take the current top specialization, the top meta specialization, overthrow them, make them completely worthless, and then replace them with their specialization.
Exactly. That's why I point that out about like, oh, there's too much balancing or whatever, because I don't want that, right? I don't like switching stuff up in the middle of the season is really, really rough. Like I know that when you're not the meta spec, you're like, that's all you ever want, right? But if you're somebody that, is that has to be one of the worst feeling things ever to like, imagine you pick a class, you learn it for like your guild or your team because it's good, and then it gets nerfed and now you're not wanted anymore. And it's like, well, wait, what?
Yep. I mean, a big part of it is just because in this game, your perception of where your class is how often you get invited to things.
Exactly, dude. I mean,
and that's why it's so important to people.
I was on doing the max, community-based tier list on like where you would rank your spec, and he was like, if you were going to apply any change to Mooncube, what would you do? And I go 20% or above. I wouldn't fix any of these mechanical problems with the spec that I hate. I would just 20% or above the spec. Nobody cares about your spec not being fun to play if it's mad OP. Like, and for a lot of people, that is the truth. And I think Peekaboo said it best. He was like, the game is so much fun, but it's really hard to play the game sometimes, especially because most people don't want to reroll. And that's totally fine. That most people don't want to reroll, but they're just praying to God that their spec is so OP that they're allowed to get invited to these groups, kind of like Squishy was pointing out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, because like, didn't they do 2 PTR builds this last week? They did one on Monday as well, right? They did a Monday one, they did a Thursday one.
Yes.
So
it looks like we're only getting one this week. They took the PTR down today, and then they brought it back up pretty quickly after without any new changes on it.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, they've also, and again, it's PTR, so they're allowed to do this, but they've been doing a lot of unreported changes and random things get changed. And I feel like I'm missing something because I know they did a bunch of dungeon changes this week, but I didn't even see them get posted anywhere.
I know that there were a lot of changes to Priority of the Sacred Flame because I zoned into the dungeon and all of the mobs are like, the makeup of what the packs are is just different.
Yes. I heard that they did that and I was like, that's good. You should probably announce that. But yeah. I guess it's PTR, so I guess they technically don't need to. Technically.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I don't know. Again, it's a little bit selfish of me because no, they don't need to, and I know they're like tinkering with it or whatever. So
we're the sweatiest people who pay attention to patch notes on a week-to-week basis, right? A lot of people just show up after the patch happens. They're like, "Oh, what changed?" they don't.
You know what unironically usually happens? Like the way it happens is Blizzard, even if they don't do it, the information usually comes to me somehow through you. Somebody's just like, "Oh, I noticed this weird thing."
Yeah,
and then it gets consolidated through me. And then put out back to the community. And I don't know if that's exactly healthy.
I mean, I think that sometimes it happens where Blizzard does things that they didn't realize that they did. Do you remember the potion change? Where they accidentally... Okay, during War Within beta, they accidentally made all potions not share cooldowns with damage potions. Or Invis potion. Yeah, it was just Invis potion. It wasn't all utility potions. And everybody was like, genius. Blizzard, you guys are genius. This is a great change. Yep. And then Blizzard was like, wait a second. We didn't do that. Hold on. And they changed it back. And everybody's like, wait a second. That was a good change. Hold on.
I feel like there's like, sometimes just something slips through and then they don't post about it. And until they find out, I mean, it's a big game, right? Like, I can't blame them. Sometimes like one dev does something and it accidentally bugs something else. And you don't really know until it happens, whether or not it's intended or not. So...
Yeah, it's not really fair to say like too many chefs in the kitchen, right? Because like you said, it's such a big game. Like they have to have so many people working on it. But yeah, there was somebody. I'm not going to give too much information, but shout out to them. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Who DM'd me questioning one of my comments about the dungeon, saying that I was wrong, and I was not wrong. It was an unintended change that someone else had done that they were not aware of, that wasn't even meant to be in the game, or it was a bug or something. And it was like, yep, that is. Sometimes that just happens.
I mean, there's so much stuff there's so many changes that they'll make to dungeons occasionally where you're like, is that a bug or is that intended? Unless it's actually in the blue post, then you understand that, okay, that's an intended change.
I mean, for PTR, they're not consistent about it, but I think that's okay, because where they are more consistent about it, or at the very least where the community is more on top of it, is when it's on live. Like if they make hotfixes to dungeons on live, it's usually known relatively quickly because there are many, many, many more people running dungeons, and the info gets shared around relatively quickly, whether on Reddit, through Wowhead, through Twitter, stuff like that. Like
memes, people just like kind of know.
Yeah, exactly. People talk, and people will find out that, oh, all of a sudden, the Halls timer got nerfed by like 1 minute or something. I don't know. Or on weekly reset, actually, they didn't do a great job of hot fixes on weekly reset this time. Never mind, I take that back. Do you remember that? They did announce like half the raid nerfs on the weekly reset. And Mythic Plus as well.
Oh, yeah. They just like pushed them, right?
Yeah, and just never announced them. And it was so weird.
Well,
but
they would announce them like halfway through Tuesday or something. It'd be like Tuesday noon.
Yes. Which is a little late, but you know. Excuse me.
I have an exciting update for MOP Classic. So
Okay.
the game has released 20 minutes ago. I queued into a dungeon. I died to the first pack because my healer was AFK. I pressed release because I'm used to playing retail, but release, even in MOP Classic, still puts you at the spirit healer when you're in a dungeon outside of the dungeon.
Oh,
So I released to the spirit healer, but the outside world, like the zone, is bugged. And so my guy has just been stuck as a ghost outside of a dungeon. I've now been kicked from my dungeon group for being a ghost for 20 minutes.
Wait,
And-
when did you stop getting released to the spirit healer? Is that WOD?
I don't remember.
I did not expect to release in a dungeon like a queued dungeon and get put outside in the Jade Forest, and the zone is like bugged or something. So there's no instance portal. Everyone's there's just like 100 ghosts out here, just like sitting here that can't get back in. That probably had the exact same thing happen.
Maybe are you encountering a bug? I wonder. Yeah, like when did that change?
I have no idea.
Trivia question, any listeners?
All right. You guys see something that's taking a hold of Twitter where people are very passionate one way or the other. Mage Tower appearances will no longer be, or will not be obtainable in Legion Remix, and people are very passionate one way or the other about this. Kind of similar to where they felt about things in MOP Remix, about the challenge mode sets, or there was no challenge mode recolors and stuff like that. And so yeah, Blizzard basically made a blue post saying that yeah, the mounts aren't coming back for Remix, the Mogs aren't coming back, get owned, and then they dabbed on you.
Yeah, there are people very upset about this. There's actually shout out to Razdruid, a listener of the pod. I think he's a chatter as well, who writes me occasional nice messages about the pod. Wrote me a nice but contained many swear words message regarding this post. He was very upset about it and wanted to make sure that we brought it up on the pod. Because yeah, the TLDR is that Blizzard considers the Mage Tower appearances to be rare, or I don't know exactly what did they say.
I guess is maybe
prestigious, yeah, or prestigious, and they're basically saying that they do not want them to be accessible through
historic accomplishments.
Yeah, and the precedent is that in a MOP Remix, they also didn't have the challenge mode skins, right? They had like recolors or something, I think.
There was no recolors.
No, okay, so there's no recolors at all. So you could not get MOP challenge mode skins either. And I don't remember people being that bummed out about that. The big issue is that a lot of the Legion Mage Tower stuff is really, really cool. Like, this is stuff that, you just didn't play then, and so you never get it, and people are really, really bummed that. I think in current year, they just need to re-release everything over and over again and let everybody get everything. I mean, especially with this like mount drop bonus thing month that they did, and doing all this stuff. Like, I think that it just needs to go, the idea of making things inaccessible. I'm okay with them being very, very hard to get. If that, obviously there are tons of appearances and mounts and stuff in games that are really hard to get.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to play Legion Remix a shit ton. It's not just a matter of doing the Mage Tower. Like, you really got to earn those things, right? But I think that they should have, I just think that there's precedent now where you should just be able to get everything. Maybe there can be some temporary
or at least a
things.
recolor, right? Like, at least a recolor.
Yeah. I think it's a bummer. I think they should reconsider this.
As somebody who played the most MOP Remix, Squishy, what are your kind of thoughts on this change?
Hey, I was a frog farmer.
So it's really odd because I think the two sides of the coin is, on one side it sucks if you just didn't play during this time. Like, if you just They just happen to not be playing. Like Legion, when did Legion release? Legion release
2016.
2016. That
August 20th or 27th or something.
August 29th. 9 years ago at this point. Like that is a long amount of time ago. And I mean, like Mage Tower is probably like 8 years ago. So like, is it actually like it is difficult for somebody who comes in now because the game is like people are coming back to the game who just didn't play Legion, seeing, you know, especially some of the more interesting ones like the Sparkle Cats or the big bear forms or stuff like that,
Oh yeah, the werebear.
to not have access to these cool skins. Like, I think for the artifact skins themselves, I don't think there's really any issue with them. But I think the thing that most people complain about, or when they say the Mage Tower stuff, is specifically the Druid forms. Because
That's a big one.
this isn't just a weapon skin.
The
Like,
druid forms are
half the-
badass, by the
yeah,
way.
like one, they're incredible, but like it's a full body skin. Like, imagine if you needed to, in order to get like the Nightborn allied race, you needed to play during Legion, and it is no longer available. Right? Like that is the level of customization that I think we are talking about here. It's
Yeah.
not just a weapon. Like, I think they're having some elements of prestige, or like, that was cool, I wish we had it, is fine. I think it has to exist in some form in an MMO. Because people want to show off. That is part of the appeal of an MMO. But for full body customizations, I don't think that is
Yeah.
worth locking.
My thoughts on this are very similar to my thoughts on the MOP CM sets. I was like, I'm really bummed that I just didn't play in Mist of Pandaria, so I'm permanently locked out forever on having them. And like, I wish I, you know, at least a recolor or something like that, because there's not really much that's similar to the Druid MOP CM. The MOP CM set for Druid is sick. What I will say is there's nothing prestigious about something that you did 9 years ago. Right? Like, the prestige is lost with time, and the prestigious part was being able to have this exclusive thing for 8 years. It's kind of like, you know, the Jaina mount, or it's kind of like any mythic cutting edge mount, where the prestige is being able to have it way before other people do, and most people can't farm it until 2 expansions have passed and the content becomes much easier. And so then they go back and farm it later on. And I've seen people where they're like, you know, the mount drop event is the greatest thing ever, and then they see this Legion remix stuff, and they're like, yeah, keep that. Do not let other people have what I have. And I'm just like, wait a second, is this not hypocritical? Hold on.
Yeah, I think your point about what they do with Mythic is sort of what I wanted to echo too. Is like, it's one thing if there's tons of this, you know, secret, rare, discontinued stuff, and everyone kind of has different things for different time periods, but that's not the precedent in
I had
WoW,
it for
right?
2 years.
Like the way it works in WoW is it comes out. Sometimes a lot of things are very hard to get right away, right? There, you know, you have to do some like crazy farm, or you have to, you know, be mythic rating or whatever, and then you have it for some period, and then over time it gets easier and easier to get, and then eventually, for someone who's a collector who just likes having number go up and have all the outfits and stuff, they can get it easily. And it's like, why this, right? Like, why out of everything, why this? And then Squishy's point is like, this is one of the most painful ones, right? Like, if it's one thing if it's like some stupid transmog that no one really cares about, but it's like arguably one of the coolest things, and one of the things that people are going to want the most. It's not even necessarily prestigious, right? Like, it's not even like, yeah, I did all the Mage Towers back then. It's like, dude, by the end of the expansion, from what I've understood, that stuff was so easy. Like, you gained, what, 70, 80 item levels over the course of Legion? Like, it's not, okay, if you did Mage Tower on right away, like, you know, on the first patch or whatever, then yeah, you're probably, like, pretty good at the game, and you had a lot of characters. But to have it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, you at the end of the expansion, it was probably turbo easy, and it's not even like it was some super crazy accomplishment. You know, it was just, were you there and did you want it, is what it was, which is literally everything in WoW, right? So it makes no sense why this is gated.
Yeah. Okay. Tinfoil hat cook time. The reason they're not doing this, all right, tinfoil hat on, is because Legion Classic is coming out, and if you do it in Legion Classic, you get it on retail.
I was thinking that they're going to do inevitably some gateway to get all the classic people to come to retail, right? Because eventually Classic is going to get like if they keep coming out with new expansions, Classic is going to be pretty modern, right? Like for example, if we were in Classic
Legion is
BFA,
modern.
right?
I
Right,
think
like
that-
if we were in Classic Legion or BFA right now, which is, you know, according to the timelines, will happen eventually unless they just stop doing it, right? Like those games are pretty dang similar, right? Especially if they make changes, right? Like they've already committed now to MOP of making balance changes, changing the way stuff like guild perks work and other things to make it, I don't want to say more modern, but you know, to, let's say to
better,
improve quality of
making them
life,
better.
right? Better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so eventually you're going to have a crowd of players who, you know, it's going to have a lot of crossover, right? People who are just, it's just going to be the same people playing both more or less probably. So I think that I do kind of have that suspicion too, that they're going to eventually try to do like the great shuffle and just try and get everybody from Classic into retail by some means, whether it's like letting all of your things, you know, letting all your stuff cross over and then you have all those mogs and stuff or whatever. I don't really know, but I mean, they already sort of did that with a Season of Discovery, right? They basically said that if you played a Season of Discovery and you had a max level character, you get a max level boost in MOP Classic. Like they basically
really
did
cool.
that shuffle, right? Which is cool, right? Like I don't mind. I think that was a good idea. And so I think that we're gonna see that eventually. I'm not saying anytime soon. I'm not trying to like, you know, be down on Classic or predict its downfall or whatever. But eventually, right, we're gonna run into that point where, you know, we have Classic Shadowlands, and it's like, why are we still doing this?
Can't wait to go back to the
The
ball.
ball, Torghast, fuck back.
Kettles can bait the community to go Kyrian again.
That was a low blow. I don't know what we had to bring that up for. Anyway.
No, I would love for there to be a way to get those kids back. I don't know that it necessarily has to be Legion Remix. Or something like direct, like, or given out just for collecting the currency in Legion Remix. I think there's a like to satisfy both sides. If people have to do some work for it, I think that is okay. But I also think it should be available. So like, I don't know what that might be, but if it's part of Legion Remix, I think it's fine. I think the best Blizzard can do is to make it available, but like make people work for it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm down for the grind, right?
Here's
Like
the
I
thing.
think a lot of people are down for that.
If it was truly, if they actually cared about prestige and historic accomplishments for shit in this game, like that would be one thing. I'm gonna be honest. I just struggle to even like take this at face value that they care about prestige and historic accomplishments, mostly because there's so much stuff in this game that probably should be prestigious that just dead ass isn't. Like,
I mean,
being able to get old mounts and old Mog from raids, like
that's what I was gonna say.
That stuff is, that's the easiest thing for it to be like, you're not allowed to go back and get that. It's too prestigious for you. They already do it in PvP. If they had the precedence of being like, yeah, this is too prestigious, you had to do it when it was current to be able to get it. All right, you know, it is what it is. This is just kind of, they're thinking in a similar vein to where they always have been. This kind of just goes against what they have been doing for a while. And that to me is the part that confuses me the most.
Sometimes their communication is a little bit off. Like another one I remember laughing about was when the dinar system came out, and their defense about why to make the mythic ones hard to get was something along the lines of like, oh, we don't want everyone to have access to like 700 item level things.
In the belt.
And then the belt comes out and it's like, it is 710 item level. And it's like, okay, like you kind of just said that this was not what you wanted to do. But so, I don't know. I like sort of get it, right? They got to like pick their battles or whatever, but this is not a battle they should be picking.
Yeah, I mean, what is arbitrary in WoW is already super weird. Like,
yeah,
like across the multiple things, like you have the Mythic Plus seasonal mounts and titles, which are prestigious and historic.
Locked.
Then you have the PvP Elite and Gladiator mounts, which are prestigious and heroic. Then you have the Raid Mog and the Raid stuff, which is not considered prestigious or heroic because you can go farm them for some reason. Post like if we're talking about that, like 2 of your 3 endgame pillars have prestigious and heroic accomplishments, except one you can just go back to expansions down the road.
Arguably the most prestigious and historic accomplishment you could go back.
Yeah, you can just go back 2 expansions down and farm it at during a special event to get it, right? Like
The quintessential part of the game, the raids, are for some reason still farmable.
yeah, to be clear, I think it is good that you're able to go back and farm the mythic stuff.
I agree.
I'm merely trying to point out the hypocrisy here of not being able to go back and farm the PvP elite sets or the PvP mounts down the road. Every time you bring that up with a PvPer, they're like, "Fuck no."
Well,
Absolutely not.
Well, yeah, because if you have something, the thing that you feel validated by it, what you don't want is other people having it.
I want to be careful poking the beehive here, but I think PvP is sort of like a dying breed, and it's something that Blizzard obviously doesn't give a lot of attention to. And I
Do
think
not say that; they'll be mad at you.
That's one of those.
All 10 of them.
It's just one of those things where, like, I feel like that would be like the death of it. Like, if I feel like there's a lot of people that have played WoW PvP for a long time and they still enjoy it, but like, you know, they mostly do it to get their whatever it is, you know, however high they rank each season. You always see that, right? When you look at a PvPer's accomplishments, 27 times glad or whatever. Like, I think that's like a big thing that they have, and I think that if they remove the rewards for it or whatever, then people would stop playing it.
Really? I honestly think that if you made PvP elite sets available, like let's say it's like Vicious Saddles, where you hit Glad or Elite in one season, you get a token to buy a second one, a second previous one. That would increase PvP through the roof.
It would be an injection similar to what a turbo boost is, where it's a very short-term injection, but long-term, I think that Growl's probably right.
But to collect all the sets, that would take multiple seasons. Sure, it's temporary for like 10 seasons, but that's 10 seasons worth of good PvP that they so desperately need right now.
But you can only get one per season. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that would be that would feel so bad, right?
I mean, but then it's at least available.
I guess.
Like if you're like, I really want the pre.
I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. But
better than nothing,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because right now, nothing, like no PvEer has any desire or want to go into PvP. And be honest, the PvPer's favorite dream was Shadowlands, when all the PvPers were forced to PvP and they got shit on.
It was BFA as well, where PvE people needed to PvP for the extra box, and you're just
it's just like the PvPers are happiest when they have what is essentially deemed fodder for them. In any PvP game, that is the case. You know,
skill-based matchmaking sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like Call of Duty, right there. Like the SPVM complaints. Like, you need the fodder, except you can't shit on the fodder too hard. Otherwise, then you no longer have the fodder, which is exactly what is happening with PvP right now. So you need to find and incentivize a way for your fodder to get back into PvP. And you need to reward them. So
Arena is just so unfun to play casually. I think that's my biggest issue with it. Like, dude, I played a lot of PvP and BFA and Shadowlands, and I enjoyed it. For me, it is just not very fun anymore. I don't know what it is.
But yeah.
I poked the hive enough to continue commenting on Arena and PvP.
I mean, prestige is always a really weird thing, because people obviously want to feel prestigious. They want to have that cool thing.
It's like a car. It's like a car, right? You want people to notice your car and be like, "Wow, that is cool."
Yeah. So,
or a watch, maybe, and you're like, "Wow,
it's nice to feel prestigious. It feels really bad to not feel prestigious. But I do think for a game like an MMO, limited time prestigious is fine, and I think prestige is good for as long as there's a way to still get it, an equivalent way of still getting it.
Yeah. All right. Other news. Reshii Wraps, about 10 days ago. We skipped this part of last week's episode. There was an article that got posted by Sinzu on Wowhead. He's the Brewmaster Monk Guide writer, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, talking about just basically the power of Reshii Wraps. Also, for some reason, if anybody who works for Blizzard is listening to this part, for some reason you can AMS and spell reflect the cloak clock.
I saw that.
Okay, that could get fixed. I'm sure that's not intentional. But basically, the core of this article was basically stating that the Reshii Wraps just aren't that powerful and aren't that cool. What have your guys' thoughts been on something that's been pitched as like an artifact item for us for the Ghosts of Koresh? What are your guys' read on this?
Read the tank buff for the audio listeners real quick.
Your spells and abilities have a high chance to Coalesce the energy around you, granting you a shield that reduces damage taken by 20% up to a certain amount of damage total. Upon falling below 40% HP, you gain this effect at 500% effectiveness. This may only occur once every 6 minutes.
What? 6 minutes?
It's not even like a cheat death. It's just like you just get a massive like shield. And I guess Growl from like a healer. From a healer point of view, how do you view this for like a tank?
I mean, it just seems like useless. I mean, all of them are pretty small, right? Like the other cloak effects, it's not like it's doing tons of damage. It just feels not very exciting.
I got another talent point and put it in nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know any tank that's like, oh yeah, I really want to go more defensive. Like,
what if they made it a cheat death? What if they genuinely made it a cheat death?
If this was a tanks like cheat deaths, I think tanks would be relatively happy with a cheat death.
Giving every tank a cheat death would be wild.
Is that a like? They put it.
They do that once. Yeah, they do that once every tier or once every other tier.
That is true.
Or not tier, sorry, expansion. Like, I think this would have been a good thing because like you want this artifact cloak to feel good. How is the healer one, Growl? Let me ask that. Do you know what it is?
Nope.
The overhealing turns to shield thing, isn't it?
Let's see. Reshii wraps.
they're all just like nothing. I don't know, like they all just, you don't play around them, you don't like, you know.
Yeah, so your helpful spells and abilities have a chance to gather dormant energy to heal an injured ally for an amount. Overhealing from this effect grants an absorb shield.
Yeah.
So basically it's just like it's just a random heal / shield on people.
Yeah, like a big thing for me when I look at effects, like whether it's trinkets or whatever, is like, is this like, am I thinking about this, or is it changing the way I play, or is it fun, or like, you know, is it doing anything? And if I can't even like, if it's just literally nothing and I don't even notice it and I don't play around it and it's like it's not there, then it's like it's not there. Like, you know, I don't really. And I just think there's a little bit too many of those things, you know, like you look at, I mean, we've been saying this for a long time, right? You look at details and you look at your damage or your healing or whatever. And there's just so many of these random little nonsense effects that are like 1% healing, 2% healing. And it's just, I don't know. I think there's just too much of that in the current game now. And it's always like, I mean, I like the flavor of it, you know, like I don't mind the story aspect of, I'm not trying to like hate on what they're doing, but like the effects just feel so like, you know, like they're scared to make it cool, but they want to make it cool, and so it just does nothing.
Yeah, like to me, I don't care about phase diving or anything like that. It's more like the part that I get hung up on, and I think this is tough for them to fix unless they do it kind of counter what Growl is talking about right there. I have an issue where it's like this is supposed to be an artifact piece, and it's similar power to the mole belt and Circe circlet. Like genuinely, that's about the level of power that you get with this kind of thing. And it's an artifact item. Like the legacy of what artifact items are in WoW is like they're really cool pieces of gear. Like the legendary artifact weapons from Legion. We talked about those. There was the necklace from BFA. That thing was badass. Like that. I would like to I-beam some more mobs. Please, Essence of the Focusing Iris, come back. Whenever I heard
Reshii, the fucking beam,
it was cool.
Yeah,
that's whenever they go, yeah, this could be an artifact. I was pogging out. I was like, that's what artifacts are to me. It's the artifact weapon, and it's the BFA necklace, and then I have this, and I'm just like, what? Like it's like the mole belt, but it's this yellow color that all the other artifacts that I've loved in this game are.
I think. Like artifact, like you said, it carries a certain term in WoW, and all the previous artifacts usually came with an extra ability. And I think this would have done a lot better if it had just an extra ability attached to it. Like,
yeah,
giant beam, big air, like
Focusing
void
Iris.
meteor comes down.
Bring it
yeah,
back. Just bring back Focusing Iris, and nobody will complain. Put it in the bag.
You know, make it a blink. Just make it so everybody gets a blink. All right, I have an idea. All right, no. I have an idea for the cape.
Okay.
What if it's your own personal bloodlust?
Yeah. The wand ring, the wand legendary.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
we bring back just bloodlust, but everybody has to use it at the same time, so that we have to argue over who when to use it during an encounter. That'd be great, right?
Explain the legendary ring to Growl, because he definitely does not know what we're talking about.
Do you know what that is?
No.
So basically, the legendary ring was it synced the cooldown across every role. So all your DPS were forced to use the legendary ring at the same time, all the healers and all the tank ones. The DPS one was I believe it was like 20% or something of your damage gets stored and then explodes at the end. So like a Magi, basically. And because it was so powerful, no one could agree on when to use the fucking button because everybody wanted to use it during their cooldowns. And it wasn't like Lust where, it felt okay to use outside your cooldowns. Because it was a like accumulator, it was like, I absolutely want to use this in my cooldowns and fuck everyone else.
Right.
Oh, and anybody could activate it.
And anybody could activate.
Yeah, so like in a hug, and that thing was going off.
That
But
sounds
anyways,
terrible.
It was terrible.
It was actually broken, but it was annoying to like talk to other people about.
It was like it was the discussions of PI except worse because Arcane Mage got the most of it because you could double dip off their crystal. Do you remember that crystal talent, Tuddles?
Oh, I know. I remember the crystal. I thought it was like
Yeah.
a trinket, or was it a talent? I thought it was a trinket.
There
or
was a
something.
trinket
I think it was
too.
a talent.
There
was a talent.
There was a trinket called Soul Capacitor that was broken for the Agi wearers that did a similar effect to the ring. But yeah, there was the crystal for Arcane Mage.
The crystal. So Arcane Mage got the most of it because you would double dip the explosion. So yeah, it was a mess. But this cape, especially for tanks, I think the biggest thing is just Blizzard has a different idea of what tanking is compared to the community.
I found something
What
funny.
is this?
This is the reason that Arcane Mage is not allowed to be good in 2025. This is what we call the 18-man Arcane Mage soloing bosses, where they all drop their crystals and they press the legendary ring at the exact same, and they press their legendary ring in Bloodlust, and then they one-shot bosses because Arcane was turbo broken back then.
Oh my god.
I don't even know what this Moonkin's here. Oh yeah, these were for raid buffs. I forgot. I forgot what these other classes were even here for.
But yeah, so back. Sorry, I got my train of thought went away there. Oh yeah, what people want for tanking is just not what Blizzard wants for tanking. Tanks don't want to be tankier because surviving is a binary choice, right? Like you either survive or you don't, and a lot of the time you don't need to survive more. So you might as well do more damage. So giving this like random shield is pretty useless to the majority of the tanks. So like I think that's there's just this disconnect that tanks want to be able to contribute damage. Blizzard has said no, absolutely not, considering they put a 33% nerf on all trinkets and cantrip weapons. And then they give this cloak which has 0 damage on it and buffs tankiness, which tanks are like, why do I need this? I'm already surviving.
Yeah, I mean, okay, this is getting a little bit off topic of where we were starting with the Reshii routes. I have a question. Is there an issue with them bringing back like Vengeance and making tanks do like real damage? Is it just like fragile DPS egos would be hurt if they were getting crushed by a tank in Mythic Plus or something like that? Or is it?
I mean, I think that's exactly it. That was a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember? What season was it in Dragonflight? Was it 2 when Bear had that like crazy tier set? But the thing is, it was the
Vinthier Bear set in
yeah, and but it wasn't like they were doing crazy single target, and it wasn't even that OP to the point where I don't even know if Bear was like that good. Like it was good, but it wasn't like that crazy, and they like everyone hated it because I mean the big thing, right, is as a tank or a healer, your damage rotation is going to be much more simple. So like at a lower level, you're just going to be executing your rotation more likely, like just more accurate than a DPS is, right? Because some DPS classes are really hard.
Yeah.
Well, if you have Yoda, for example, playing with Hopeful, and Yoda can do 90% of Hopeful's damage, when you're looking at a low key or like, a not so great scenario, I mean, the tanks are just going to be crushing everybody, because like a DPS, I mean, how much damage an average DPS loses. I mean, we talk about the 1-button rotation and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think that people would have a lot less fun. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe instead of getting people to play tank or healer, they just need to make DPS less fun. Like, what if you know what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
Like, hold on. Maybe we're onto something here. What if they just make DPS less fun?
Dude, sometimes I'll talk about this on my stream and be like, dude, we got to get more people tanking. And then everybody's like, bring back Vengeance, so I'll start tanking. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even know if that, first off, I don't even know if that makes more people tank, but I know that will make some.
I think it would. Absolutely.
A lot of DPS will become very salty about getting beat by the tank.
I mean, like you mentioned the bear Ventir thing. There was a rumor going around. Who the fuck knows if it's true? But like the change to the Ventir bear nerf was because somebody got salty that they were in a group with a bear that did so much, and it got changed. Because
You remember Asmongold got Protection Warrior nerfed in Dragonflight Season 1?
I did not.
Yeah, he got it nerfed on stream.
I mean, it's just like every time a tank is too powerful, Blizzard's like, no, tanks aren't allowed to have fun. Like that is the vibe that tanks are at right now. That's why tanks don't get played, right? Like any time a tank does semi-reasonable damage, it gets nerfed.
Oh, dude, it's so funny because Brewmaster Monk is in a state where it does, pretty good damage on the PTR. And I don't even think they're the best tank survivability-wise, but you see how much damage they do. They're not even beating DPS. It doesn't really matter, but they're doing a lot of damage. And then you just know that Blizzard is gonna just nuke this. If Brewmaster was 2 key levels better survivability wise, Blizzard wouldn't say anything, would not do the specialization. However, if it does more damage, if it can beat DPS sometimes, absolutely not. We're nerfing this.
Yeah, like the crazy thing about the Ventir bear one was they were not the best tank.
They weren't.
Do you remember what the best tank was? The best tank was Blood DK by a massive margin, and it completely gapped Bear Druid. There was no reason to nerf Bear Druid there when Blood DK also existed and was better. So, like, I have a feeling that Blizzard is allergic to tanks being good, and they don't know how to tune tank damage at all.
Now, I will say this as a counterpoint. People did start playing 2 tanks in Mythic Plus occasionally at that point because Bear Druid was doing a lot of damage.
True, but why only Bear would be the question.
You're making a reasonable argument.
Yeah, like I think you are absolutely right. If you're bringing 2 tanks, that is a problem in itself, and you need to remove it. But Blood DK was just as good in Mythic Plus and better in Raid.
Yeah,
So-
in general, the multiple tanks argument doesn't hold up because, I mean, it's very easy to design it so you need to be getting hit to do damage, right? And it's like that's how Brewmaster is. I'm pretty sure. Like you can't just have 2 Brewmasters doing DPS damage. Like one of them is.
Well,
gonna do
that's what
damage.
Vengeance was, right? Like that is
Yeah.
what the
Well,
mechanic
right.
of
But I'm
Vengeance
just saying, like even like you can build those mechanics into the classes themselves. It doesn't need to be just
yes.
a global vengeance.
Which
thing.
there are some of, right? Like Blood DK gets cooldown reduction when they get hit and the bone shield drops, right? Like they get cooldown reduction on their Dancing Rune Weapon and Tombstone or something like that. So there is some of that, and maybe that is a way to do it. Like people love Vengeance. Like if you ask any tank what their most fun tanking was, they're going to say MOP because of Vengeance. When they could actually do reasonable damage. Was it balanced? Absolutely not. But I think there's a way to make it balanced if they would ever put time into trying to make it balanced.
Gotta get more people tanking. That's the Reshii Raps, unfortunately, are not the solution to getting more people tanking.
Okay. Imagine if tanks only got the laser beam.
The focusing iris?
the
Yeah.
focusing
The dopamine
I don't
beam?
know. I don't know if I want my tanks to have focusing iris.
That's like what Dorky was telling people to press trees for him so he could go moon conform as a bear druid and convoke.
Yeah. There's a great clip on my channel, and what was that boss? Hakar and the other side.
Yeah.
And that boss had the nastiest tank buster, and there's a clip of Dorky just running circles around the room in moonkin form, trying to convoke the boss as he's tanking it. Just
Do
like,
you remember-
dude,
That was-
that's
I
what
remember
I want my
Shadowlands.
tank to do.
Shadowlands as well. There were the on-cast big damage trinkets. Beacon from Beyond is one of them.
That was
And
from
I remember
Dragonflight.
Dragonflight, yeah. Multiple tanks, like prot warriors, like tanking like Freehold or something, immediately pressing Beacon from Beyond and falling over.
Yeah, the grief
Oh,
torch.
Because
I
they
think
just
was,
lost their block and
the grief torch was by far the worst one of that.
Grief Torch
Oh,
was the other one,
grief
yeah.
torch.
Remember that? That was good.
Yeah.
All right. So also a week ago, but we didn't get to talk about this on the pod last week. Neighborhoods and stuff in regards to neighborhoods got announced. Apparently, this was received pretty well by the community from all I was reading. Squishy, is there anything like notable here?
I think the big thing is it is very hop in and hop out. If you have a
cool.
guild, you can pop underneath your guild. If you suddenly leave the guild or you're like, I don't want to go live with my other friends, you can just pack up your entire house and move to a different neighborhood. So if your public neighborhood, same thing. If you hate your neighbors, you can just go somewhere else. And I think that is very good.
You can break your lease for free?
Ted's gonna become a landlord. Ted's gonna become a landlord. But one of the things that they also announced was they have like a renown track for neighborhoods where you have to like come in and like do like objectives and stuff like that. And you eventually rank up your neighborhood, at which point you unlock new stuff, which is I think kind of interesting. It's like a way to like come together with your neighborhood and like get some cool things. How do you guys feel about that?
It's neighborhood renown?
Yes.
What's the max size that you can have in a neighborhood? Like, are we gonna have like we have like 1,000 person neighborhoods?
I don't think so. Private neighborhoods.
That probably lagged the game out.
I don't see it.
This stuff has the potential to be so freaking cool. Like, think about how, I don't want to say, let's just say like how pointless a lot of collecting is in a WoW already. Like, obviously you like certain mogs or certain mounts, but 99.9% of the things you collect you'll probably never use, but people still like collecting it, right? Now that there's actually a purpose and like tons of ways that you can use these things, I feel like if there are tons and tons of things that you can use and like, you know, they actually look cool and people like them, I think this is gonna like take the WoW collecting thing to like a whole new level where a lot of people are going to be really excited to just be like doing old raids or doing whatever achievements that you need to get this stuff.
I mean, I'm not a collecting main, but I think that like that is probably the largest demographic of people who play World of Warcraft are like main collectors, right? They're not Mythic Plusers, they're not raiders, they're collectors. And I think if this is end-game content for that type of group of people, and it can continue to increase the amount of people who are just actively playing WoW, I think that what Growl said spot on. This is very good for the game.
Yeah, so they say like approximately once a month, endeavors show up, which provides you with your neighborhood with a bunch of different tasks. The more people you have, the more endeavors you need to complete to get it done.
Like a Pokemon Go raid.
Yeah, the tasks themselves are from crafting to gathering to questing to completing dungeons or raids. They want there to be a way for players to contribute to the endeavor, regardless of how they choose to engage. When you complete tasks, you get a currency and favor. And then favor is the renown, basically.
Do you think it's a problem if you're like in a not active neighborhood?
You're, like, I think so.
You're pretty encouraged to leave. I mean, like, is that going to be a structural part? I guess you're playing an MMORPG, maybe is what it is.
You know what this actually, like, unironically reminds me of?
I used to play like a lot of...
I was gonna say a gacha game. I used to play a shit ton of gacha games on my phone where you join a random guild, not because you know any of them, but because you collectively gain rewards for like kind of like participating together.
That's good. I think that's a good system, right?
I mean, I think it is good.
We need the microtransactions. We need the microtransactions too.
Oh yeah, I don't know about Well, hold on. What if everyone is using microtransactions and then I'm in their neighborhood and I get stuff? I mean,
I imagine they're going to have microtransactions for like housing, furniture. I can't imagine they'll have microtransactions for this like mobile game style.
So, would you rather have a Max Town Hall 8 or a Rush Town Hall 10?
Oh my god. No, but like I actually think this is great. Like it encourages like some form of collaboration. Even if you're playing solo and you join a random neighborhood, it might take some time to find the one that you vibe with. Even if you don't talk, you're still doing things in a collective game to gain with other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like kill 500 raid bosses across this month. Like you may not know any of these other people, but if you go do LFR or whatever, or your normal mode clears, you're collecting, you're going to see the bar go up with your neighborhood. And I think that will increase the amount of maybe potential reaching out to fellow people in your neighborhood and community and building friends, which we know Blizzard wants to do more of.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, that was the thing in hardcore. Like your characters are like more or less throwaway, and there's not really this hope of like trying to get into a guild and raiding or whatever, right? You're just like lucky if you get to level 60 for most people. But like that's what you do. You just literally just join random guilds just to like shoot the shit with people and like laugh when somebody dies or like talk. The fact that you might like meet any of these people and do a dungeon with them is like so beyond the reason you would join a guild in hardcore. You'd basically just do it just to like be in a group chat with a bunch of people that you don't know and hang out. And I think that like those sorts of things lead to good things, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of an MMO is like, well, we're a bunch of antisocial people, but if we all hang out together, we actually have a lot of. Interests and we might actually have some fun. Like if
Yeah.
you're in the fact that you mentioned like, oh, if you're not in a big neighborhood this might be bad, but it's like you can just be in a public neighborhood, right? Like you can just join literally random neighborhood with anybody and it doesn't it's not like people I mean, okay, maybe there might be some weird situations that people are in, but I think for the most part it's just going to be like strictly positive. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of really cool like community neighborhoods too for like different streamers or groups or Reddit or whatever.
Dude,
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw a complaint about the Horde one being the Horde inspired architecture. People were complaining that it looks like a Horde a Horde building that you get in Orgrimmar. They're
Yeah.
just like the Alliance ones look so much better, blah blah blah, and they were just complaining about the Horde one.
I could kind of see that though. Like I do think like from from a fantasy point of view, okay, there's Alliance and there's Horde houses or whatever, but for the most part, like if you're trying to make a house, you're trying to make it look pretty, right? Like you're not trying to, oh, me Zug Zug, me Orc, right? Like I'm sure there's some people that roleplay like that, but for the most part, like most people want a cool house that looks nice, and so I could kind of understand. Like I would definitely, I feel like pick an Alliance house over a Horde house.
Yeah, same. Like they just look more customizable in a way. There's only so much you could do to like improve the exterior of the Horde house, I feel like.
I think you should be able to just like completely change the exterior of the homes.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a thing right now? I guess questions.
But
Well, I mean,
Or-
this is a big undertaking, right? Like I think it's one of those systems that they're gonna add, and I could see them being like, okay, this is in WoW forever. Like this is so good, everybody wants this, and they continue expanding on it. And that can't really be said for a lot of the things that have been added, right? Like delves are in the game, and Torghast, and like they've had so many misses of systems that they've added, and it's like war fronts, right? Where it's like, I bet it's somewhere somebody in some business room like thought, oh yeah, this is going to be the next staple of WoW, and we're going to do this in every expansion for like a lot of these different ideas. But this housing thing, like I can definitely see them massively expanding on it in the future.
Yeah. It's not hard. Like I don't think it's as hard as some of the other stuff because the content is pretty evergreen. All they need to do is just keep releasing new stuff to collect. Like collectors will go nuts at this, right? Like I gotta collect every chair version there is to have my chair collection. Like
you need therapy.
That's gonna be a thing. People are wanting to collect every transmog, every achievements, right? Like those already exist, and so like I think this will also spice up professions. Like professions right now are literally just made to supplement the gearing process, and that is it. Right? Like there's not much else. The exterior is like there's like an NG mount, I think is the one other thing. Being able to craft a bunch of furniture kind of really like puts a lot of revitalization into what professions, and you're gonna call on crafters to like, hey, I want you to craft this door frame for me or something, this rug or something. Why are you laughing at that?
Door frame
This
revitalizes the crafting. My dream is to make door frames.
Okay, but like realistically, that tailors gonna be able to craft rugs, right? Like they already craft flying carpet mounts. Like you're gonna go to a tailor for a cool rug or a floor or something. That's probably gonna happen. That's how casuals make gold.
I don't know. I think professions are very, very hard to make good.
Professions are, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about professions. I hate embellishments, by the way. I think embellishments are the worst system ever. I also think the work order system is so convoluted even still.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm excited.
I mean, it certainly won't make them worse, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be testable like Gamescom, by the way. I know we talked about that.
Really? Like,
yeah,
not
player housing is good.
More testable than what the Dratnos and Preach.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be public testing. Like, you can go there and do player housing.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So you're going to Gamescom now, right?
I'm a little bit busy at that point. Talk about things that I'm super excited for. So they brought back a lot of the dungeons. I actually think this dungeon pool's a banger. I think this is the best dungeon pool that they've had in a while. Now, my thoughts on dungeon pools is that it doesn't matter how good or bad a dungeon pool is. If the season isn't doing very well, if the game is not very fun to play, you could have the best or worst dungeon pool, and it doesn't carry the game. If we put this season's dungeon pool into season 1, it would still suck, just for the exact same reason that the season 1 dungeon pool sucked, because the game was not doing as well. What are your thoughts right now on the dungeons that we've seen so far, Growl? So we've tested every single dungeon. I think we talked about the returning dungeons from season 1 and season 2. What have you thought about the Tazavesh's, Halls of Atonement? What have your thoughts been on those?
Overall, like the dungeon layouts and like flow of the dungeons, I like. Like Halls of Atonement, classically a good dungeon. Tazavesh is one that's not bad at all. The problem, I guess, is like their modernization of the dungeons, even like the season 1 ones. It feels like I just worry. I don't know, there's just so much of this like random, very bursty, very spiky damage. And I just hope that it gets tuned by the time it goes live, because like they're like, because our damage too, right? Like as players, our damage is gonna go up really, really high. Like with all the stuff, all the crazy tier sets, like by the end of the season, we're gonna be scaling so hard damage wise versus HP. And I just worry that surviving in these keys is gonna be so difficult. Like some of the, I don't know, like just trying to do like some of the same pulls that you used to do before, like in Arakara, for example, like they're just really, really hard. I don't know. Like some of the pulls are just like crazy. Some of the mobs seem like there's just not a lot of counterplay, I guess, with like some of the new mechanics that they've added.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a pretty good job, though, I think, of like doing tuning. This is like my favorite part of the season, where like they do dungeon tuning very often, like week to week.
Oh, dude, yes, crazy.
I just unlocked you.
Yeah,
I think there's still some issues. Like one of the biggest things I think that was an issue previously and is still an issue now is the goddamn fish sticks in Tazavesh. They are totems, and if you don't know what a totem is, it's something that cannot be hit by AoE spells, and it cannot be dotted, and it cannot be hit by random spells, making it a giant pain in the ass to kill. I think, like, how would you personally fix the fish stick issue?
I would delete
Would
that.
you make them AoE like barrels?
I would actually delete that mechanic. I don't think that mechanic is particularly good. I think it's my bigger issue with fish sticks. I have a bigger grievance with the fact that the Murlocs flee rather. I think that mobs shouldn't flee in Mythic Plus. I know that you've gotten low. Oh my god, I have to go get my friends to help me out. Talk about the least amount of fun that I have in this game is whenever a pack accidentally proxy pulls another pack and starts running at you because the mob was fleeing. But for fish sticks, yeah, I mean, I would just not have them in the game, frankly. I just don't think it's a very good mechanic.
I don't really mind fleeing mobs. I think that there's a lot, like, classes have a lot of, like, CC nowadays. Like, I feel like if mobs flee and they pull other packs, that's kind of on you. Like, I don't really mind that as a mechanic compared to other things, I guess.
It's about, like, how you have to use your CC to stop fleeing mobs. You're not actually proactively using your CC for anything other than this arbitrary mechanic where these mobs just run away from us and try to it's also the fact that they're tagging the pack for you. I think it's kind of the same reason that arcane mages arcane orb shouldn't pull mobs that are out of combat. It's kind of the same way that works. Like it shouldn't pull mobs that are out of combat. For some reason it does, but it's the same reason I don't like mobs that flee pulling other packs of trash.
I think it's okay if it feels fair. Like if the packs are like crammed together like Toldegor, that shit sucks. But like if there's enough room to use your utility to keep them in, I think it's a different way to use utility that isn't using all your CCs on stops. And
I just think that we have to be careful with how many mechanics that we say we don't like. Like, okay, we don't like having to do AoE stops. We don't like having to do kicks. We don't like having to do this. We don't like having to do tank busters. It's like, well, like at some point we have to like not complain about mechanics.
Sure.
I guess is the reason that I say like I'm not necessarily saying that I find fleeing mobs particularly fun, but like, well, I find that a whole lot. I don't really mind that at all compared to like okay, the way that we have to use our AoE stops on this pack is we need to use 40 seconds straight of AoE stops or else we die because of casters.
There
right?
are
Like, that's a way
there are
more
certainly-
fun application of stops to me.
There are certainly levels to most of the complaints. Like for me, I have my opinions on pretty much all of the mobs in the dungeons. Like I don't think the fish stick as an ability is great. I think that how most groups are going to be dealing with it right now is not by killing it. You're just going to take the mob. You're going to drag the mobs out of the range of the fish stick. I think it's like 20 or 30 yards or something like that, and you're just going to kill off. You're going to keep killing the mobs, and he's going to drop it again after 25 seconds. You're going to pull them again and pull them away. And so, like, I just don't think that mechanic is like particularly great. I think that maybe they're. I mean, how it worked in the past is you could just literally use a stop on the fish stick cast and it wouldn't recast, but that's not how it works anymore.
You know what I actually think the issue with that is you have the option of killing it. I actually think fish stick would be better if you didn't have the option to kill it. And they could tune it appropriately that you just drops on the ground and then you just run it away. I actually think that's healthier for the game.
As it turns out, currently you actually don't have the option of killing it because nobody hits them ever.
Nobody can hit them.
Yeah,
No, that's what I mean though. Like people are baited into trying to kill the fish stick.
Yeah, sure.
When like you have like one person who's trying to hit it and gets angry like why isn't everybody hitting this? And everybody else is like I can't hit it. Right? Like you can't mind flay it or something like that. Is that right? The totems?
I mean, you can't tempest them.
You can't like, debuff them, I believe
half of my abilities on Moonkin don't hit him either. Like, I don't know.
So like
Star Surge it.
I honestly think the bigger thing is just to like make it unkillable. Don't like remember how they talked about bait cast in an interview? Like they removed just a lot of cast and just put the debuff on you now rather than making it interruptible.
Oh yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Like I feel like this is a case where less options is actually better. Because then they could assume that the pack will get like maybe 1 or 2 ticks and tune, like instead maybe nerf the fish stick a little bit rather than expecting you to maybe kill it and do this hybrid thing. I think that would help Pugs a lot.
Maybe. I guess the question is sort of it asks is like what is the intended counterplay, right? Because surely the intended counterplay isn't to just AoE stun it 10 times in a row until it dies, right? Like clearly the intended mechanic is to hit it, I think, or move it. I guess like you have the option. The problem is like every class nowadays is designed where it doesn't want to do that, right? Like the amount of damage that you lose is just so tremendous by doing it, right? It's not a matter of like, oh, min-maxing, like, oh, I lose 10% damage if I hit it, or I have to spend 2 globals. Like, as an arcane mage, like, if I'm in any of my cooldowns, it is completely griefing. Like, I'm just doing negative damage if I was to hit it. And there's a lot of, like, fire mages like that. Like, so many classes are like that where you're just hurt so bad by switching.
I think that it's kind of the same issue that the barrels had from the scientists and intermediary this season, the failed batches, if you guys remember those, where just a lot of classes there's some specs that are really good at killing them. Like Enhancement Shaman with Primordial Storm can just like kill them. DK can pretty seamlessly target swap and then start death coiling those. There's a lot of specs that just don't do damage to failed batches, and they happen to be the specs that are in the meta right now. But there's a decent amount of specs that just cannot do good damage to failed batches, and so as a result, you're forced to line of sight them. And Blizzard did make a good change of allowing you to have that option of LOSing them, but there's no real option of killing fish sticks off for half the specs in the game right now, and that feels really bad. So I don't really know what the real solution is. But that's kind of why I went towards like I would maybe change what those mobs do. I don't think that fish, while an iconic mechanic of the dungeon, I don't think it's a very well designed mechanic personally.
And the biggest the issue is just this totem. I think like a totem is just every time there's a totem, we have problems.
That is the easiest first step solution, right? Like if you're
but I mean, like if it's not a totem and you just I don't know. I guess it's just very very hard to tune, right? Because if it's not a totem, then you're basically saying, well, then you don't even do the mechanic. Like then you just hit it. Then you just keep AoEing.
I mean, they have the AoE damage taken reduced by 99%. Like they've done that on mobs.
So what's the difference? Then?
What if it was like explosive?
The difference is that you can actually hit and dot the totem. You can't dot totems. Totems cannot be dotted, which means that you can't like perform your regular, like, it is a knowledge gap whenever a totem is introduced. You cannot dot totems. I believe you cannot channel on totems because of the debuff. There's just like a lot of random interactions that totems do not work with.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
interesting.
those,
I didn't know that. You can't moonfire those totems?
the direct damage applies, but I don't think it gets dotted. Is that right?
Oh.
It depends on the totem. I actually don't know how it works.
It depends on the totem. I love
like seriously, like you could moonfire the totems on the last boss of Brackenhide Hollow, shaman totems in arena.
That wasn't a totem. That was a totem mechanic. It was not a totem.
It was a literal totem, but it wasn't a totem.
In arena, you can't dot totems. That's what what I was saying.
This is essentially a shaman coded totem, not an NPC that is a totem model. That is the best way to put it.
I'm rolling my eyes for the audio.
But that is like, to try to explain it to Growl. Like, I think the knowledge gap for trying to hit actual totems is a problem. If it was a single target AoE damage reduced type totem, that is fine, but not the shaman totem.
This right here is also why I hate mobs that flee. Like, I actually have the tool. I have Ursul's Vortex available here to stop this Shell Crusher from pulling the pack. I didn't really. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Like, I wish I could go back in time and realize what I'm looking at. And then I noticed he's starting to get too close to the pack, so I bear wild charge him to root him because I can't Ursul them back. But he pulled the pack. Like, he's already too close to the pack, so it's already getting body pulled. And that's why I hate mobs that flee. I think that mobs that flee are just so unsatisfying, because it's not that you don't have tools in your kit to be able to deal with it. It's that it has to be 100% preemptive, and most of the time it doesn't matter, except for the one time that it does matter, and then you get an extra trash pack, and you're just like, this is the worst thing that's happened to me this week. Okay, anybody have anything else before we go to Q&A?
We didn't even talk about Halls of Atonement, man.
Oh. That's right.
Well, so one thing, not to like continue more about the fish sticks, but one weird situation that we're in is that in Shadowlands, there were a lot of mechanics that like seemed fair because you could stun them, right? So the two big ones were Loyal Beasts and Halls of Atonement. That was like a cast that the archers would use to buff the dogs. And then there was the fish sticks, right? And the thing about both of those packs, the fish stick packs and the Loyal Beast packs, is there are also a lot of other casters that you want to kick in those packs. The Murlocs have the water bolt guys and also the obliterators in Halls of Atonement. So in Halls of Atonement, they made Loyal Beasts a kick. And not only is it a kick, but it like it's not just a one-time cast. It'll cast multiple like it'll just, after you kick it, it'll come off cooldown and it'll keep using it. That like Halls of Atonement is already pretty dang kick heavy. Like, there are obliterators everywhere that just spam bolt on people, and the bolts are really nasty. So like, you don't want to be having somebody forced to be kicking it the whole time.
Yeah,
it is really, really kick intensive now in the beginning of Halls of Atonement. And they added, like, I believe one of the mobs has a dispellable debuff that goes on the tank. I think it's the Dark Blades, right?
It is.
One of them is not dispellable, one of them is. But again, this is already an area that's like very dispel heavy. Like, there are the collectors that put the dot, which is like, if I remember, like a mandatory dispel. Like, that does a lot of damage.
Curse, right?
Well, and the curse. There's both.
Oh, okay.
There's
Okay.
Yeah. The collectors have the dot.
The curse got changed, I'm pretty sure, to be a magic effect.
But either way, my point is still that there are a lot of dispels, and you don't necessarily have enough dispels for everybody, right? Like, I don't know, maybe that's the intent. Okay, you choose who you dispel, but sometimes it's really, really hard, and sometimes it doesn't matter, and people will just die anyway. So I don't know. I feel like they added kicks and dispels to an area that already had lots and lots of kicks and dispels, and I understand what they were trying to do. Like, I didn't necessarily like those other mechanics either, but they really, really overloaded the kicks and dispels in that part of Halls, and it just turns out to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think the obliterators putting the curse on people, that's now like apparently a magic damage or magic dispel from what I read somewhere. I think it makes sense, but the problem is, like, you actually can't. It starts to become a problem whenever you're tanking it with the Shard of Falcius, right? So the Shard is going to be doing that pulsing AoE. You're not allowed to get hit with a bolt that goes off at the exact same time that you're taking the shard AoE.
Right.
And you're not allowed to have that dispel go off on you at the exact same time that you're taking a shard AoE. And one of the things that they started out this dungeon testing, because this is a relic of Shadowlands dungeons, is the obliterators would only cast bolt on the tank. And they randomly hotfixed the change where now they will cast bolt on random players, which I think is like fine under most circumstances. Like, in theory, I don't think that tanks are very well designed to be tanking bolts for extended periods of time. Some of them are good at it, like Prot Paladin, and some of them are atrocious at it, like Warrior Tank. So, having them tank bolts over and over again, not exactly the greatest thing ever, so I understand why they changed it. But now you have 2 obliterators that put random magic damage debuffs on people and will cast bolts onto players at the exact same time that you have a shard that's AoEing at the same time. It's kind of like in Arakara, how you'd have those web mages in the second area, that if you had them at the exact same time that you had the hulking bloodguard do the slam and you got hit with a bolt in roughly 3 seconds apart, you're probably dying. That's why the spam casters are such obnoxious mobs, is because it's Blizzard doesn't expect, like, in theory, you could tank a bolt by itself, but not if anything else is happening ever. And so there's just a lot that's going on, and there's a lot of kicks like Growl identified.
Yeah, bolt damage is really, really high in high keys. I think, to me, bolts and archers are some of the most problematic mobs when it comes to M+, simply because, like, in a 12, they serve like a very, very good purpose, right? Like a bolter, from my understanding, is not really meant to, okay, you need to chain kick every single bolt. An archer, they're just meant to be like range mobs that just put out like little bits of damage that, you need to heal, you need to pay attention to them. Like, if there's a combo, maybe you need a defensive. But on high keys, it just gets to the point where they're doing like 80% of your health in one bolt or one shot or whatever, and it's like, it's just not, it feels like there's no counterplay. It feels like there's no counterplay, and those tend to become the most problematic mobs most quickly. And I don't know a really great solution to that. I mean, infinitely scaling Mythic Plus would be a little bit silly if things would eventually stop scaling, but it does sort of feel like, sometimes certain mechanic needs to not one-shot you, or a certain mechanic needs to not do like more than 50% of your health or something, because, you talk about like the overlaps. I mean, there are overlaps where you press a defensive and you still die, like in Priory the Sacred Flame, for example, part of the reason you never pull those knights is you have the bleed and you have the shout that the same mob does. And it's like,
And pop shot, right?
Yeah, and you have archers going, like, you can easily press like a pretty major defensive and just die. Like, so okay, some classes have like ice block or whatever, but if you're a priest, like, okay, well, if you're shadow, you press dispersion, and that sucks because you can't even attack. And if you're a healer, well, hope you have like pain sup or GS or something.
It's so funny. We wiped twice in Halls of Atonement in this VOD, and I'm playing with like Evade, Dazer, Terrathol, and Sense, like really good players. We wiped twice, realized that the dungeon was doable, but it would have require us to be like really on top of things coordination wise, know what's coming, and like hard call kicks and shit to be able to time the key. And so we were like, we're going somewhere else.
That's a big thing on PTR, and that's sort of, I'm trying to think of like how to best explain it, but if you just think about it in terms of the HP versus the damage scaling, right? Like, we're not saying that we want to do the top cutting edge number 1 keys, right? But you're at a point where, okay, you go into a key level and mobs just, like, let's say you go into a 14 on PTR, for example, right? If you got a group of good players, those packs just like blow up instantly. Like, you don't even get to use your cooldowns, right? And then you try and go into a level where, like, maybe the mobs will be a little bit of chunky, where the timer will be challenging. And all of a sudden you have to be like, everyone in comms, you have to have weak auras for tracking all the shouts and all the pot shots and all this and all that. And it's like, there's not even a key, like, it just feels like this survivability ramps up so fast, and the damage required and like, needing to do good damage and have a good route doesn't really ramp up to the point where, like, I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't
feel great.
What you're talking about isn't an issue of the dungeons themselves. I mean, this is like a modernization of WoW dungeons. I mean, that's how the conversation started, and I think you correctly identified it. It's not even like this dungeon, these dungeons have this problem thing. It's like, since Dragonflight, Blizzard has been designing dungeons in this way intentionally, and this is, just a byproduct of it, and it makes the dungeons in some instances less fun and harder.
I think for me, like the one thing I want to say about Halls of Atonement is I think the last boss is now. What do you guys think of the last boss? I'm curious.
Well, I've never made it to the last boss because the third boss is fucking terrible.
Oh, okay. Growl, have you done the last boss?
So
No.
basically they made it so no, I have. Jengbi has all-time 15s on PTR.
Oh, better than Tettles? Interesting.
So the thing about the last boss is I don't really mind the fact that it does a little bit of random damage. Like what they did is they added it so whenever it throws a statue, when the statue lands, it does damage.
They changed that. They actually got rid of that. I don't know if it's intentional or not.
Oh.
Wait, there's no more random damage on the statues?
Oh, okay.
Well, so
there might be random damage on statues, but them colliding against one another doesn't do damage
anymore.
Oh,
yeah, so that was the point that I think that I was going to get to, and I think that's what she was as well, is when two statues hit each other, then now two of them drop, and so it would do double damage. And it would do to the point where, like, that would be very, very bad if two statues collide. And so the question is just, is that what was intended? Like, was that intended that you need to make sure you're always positioned to never make the statues collide? Because that doesn't feel reasonable to me, but maybe that was what their intention was.
Well, but the issue I think isn't like I don't think there's a collision damage, is there? Oh, I guess sorry. Sorry. Let me clarify here. When you collide a statue, it deals damage for the initial collision because it's the statue stopping, but then both statues bounce and deal additional damage twice. So you're doing 3 times damage on a collision. Because the statues are moving a total of 3 times. Right.
Yeah. I don't know exactly the amount of damage, but basically, when statues collide, it's really, really bad. And I don't know if the intention is that they want, if that's what they wanted or not.
So you saw one there.
You're actually in this. We're in this group together. Yeah, we actually have the statue collide in this VOD, and this is 9 days ago. So they fixed it to where it didn't do any damage to our group at that point if they collided.
Oh, well, that's good.
But again, I don't know what's a bug or what's intentional. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like that.
I like to treat things unless something is very, very blatant. I just like to treat everything as a intentional. And if it's a bug and they fix it, then whatever.
Okay. I think it's intentional because the statues colliding against one another, it just seems like too much of a mechanic for the average Mythic Pluser to always be super preemptive about their movement. Because right here, I'm actually in a spot where there's a statue a little bit off screen. I'm in a position right here where I'm going to have a statue collide. Basically, the only spot, the spot that I should be standing in is either here or here. Both are totally fine, but I can't be standing where I'm standing. And I need to be, you have to be preemptively moving every single time.
I honestly think that this fight without the collision mechanic is pretty bad. There is nothing going on. Like, it is a single target dummy and nothing is going on. The reason that I thought that the mechanic was kind of okay was the only mechanic on the boss was the collision mechanic, and I don't even think it kills you in a low key. Like, without the collision mechanic, you kind of just do whatever, and the healer is expected to just kind of heal through the damage, and that's about it. But like,
the collision mechanic feels jank because of how the pillars are.
What do you mean? It's geography. It's positioning.
No. They have like a min distance that they have to travel as well.
Geography?
Geometry is what he meant.
Geometry, sorry.
Geography.
Yeah, so we're playing GeoGuessr here, Growl.
It's like the border between France and Spain, and you have to pinpoint Andorra. But I think it's because like there's a min distance that the statues have to travel as well, and if you get them. If somebody makes a mistake with their positioning, you have to constantly be thinking about your positioning relative to all 4 statues at the same time, and it just kind of feels a little bit wonky in my opinion. It's not that it's impossible to do, but it feels, it also, if it's a group-wide one-shot, it feels overly punishing for somebody who's just made an honest mistake. Like this situation right here where these 2 statues are so close to one another and these 2 statues are far apart. This is a very difficult position to be able to recover from. Basically, the only spot that you can be standing in to not have the statues collide is here, is like directly where the boss is right now. So you have to be able to assess.
Like, is that a problem though? Like, if you're on a high enough key level, you should know these things. If you're not on a high enough key level, it won't kill you.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do think that like, this level of positioning is more of a raid encounter mechanic than a dungeon encounter mechanic.
It
'cause
doesn't
dungeon
feel like a
mechanics-
dungeon mechanic. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I would personally enjoy this type of mechanic for a hard mode, like 5-man dungeon, like a mega dungeon.
Like that's a wipe in. Okay, we're obviously killed the boss in advance, but like say this does wipe us at the contact run. That's literally
Right.
a
Like
wipe.
realistically, this is more of a raid boss where you shouldn't have placed the 2 pawns next to each other type thing, right?
Sure,
Like you have to.
sure.
So like I can kind of come around to that of it should probably like be that would be the cool type of mechanic to exist in a hard mode mega dungeon.
The only other new mechanic on Chamberlain is the circles, which like is this really necessary?
The circles
Yeah,
is
it's a
weird.
very silly mechanic.
We could there's thought. I mean, everybody has thoughts. I just don't think Lord Chamberlain's like a very well designed fight as it currently stands. I don't really know how I would fix it to make it better without giving him like almost a full rework of sorts. I just don't like the statue mechanic how it currently stands. More of the issue. This circle mechanic could go and nobody would ever be sad. Like, what is that?
I don't really mind it. So one thing I think is that you see in a lot of bosses, I call them like nerve check bosses, where basically like the end boss is actually quite simple and the mechanics are quite easy, and it's simply a matter of like, well, if you're in some, if you're in an intense dungeon run where you're really trying to push damage and like, you might, clown it and mess up a mechanic, but it's not really that hard. I think that's fine for bosses.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily think every single boss needs to be like, crazy mechanically.
I think that boss could have stayed the exact same as it was back in Shadowlands counter as well.
Like
But-
I'm not saying it's a good boss, but like I think having some bosses that are kind of target dummy is fine, because like there are like a little bit of you have to do the soaks on the pillars or whatever. Like you have to be paying. Like the statues are the big one, right? Well, one funny thing about the statues, I haven't been watching the visuals. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Did they change the statues visuals so that you can see the path better?
Yeah, arrow now.
Yeah, there's an arrow.
Yes. So there's a very funny thing that went on with Shadowlands dungeons where there's a lot of mechanics that were actually difficult specifically because they were hard to see.
Yep.
The biggest example that I can think of was this season was the tornadoes in Theater of Pain. That was something that was, and I brought this up, I think. It's been very common in Shadowlands for people to die to that thing. And basically nobody ever got hit by that in War Within. And people are better players now. People are better players now, but a big thing for a lot of Shadowlands, like there were just different types of mechanics that don't necessarily exist, right? Like one thing I mentioned is stuns, right? If a cast that you have to stun and then you stop it, and that was a mechanic that existed in Shadowlands, and that's not a thing anymore, really, right? Another thing is those mechanics that are like hard to see visibly, but there's not that much going on in the fight, right? So Lord Chamberlain was an example of that, of like you have to be paying attention to the statues and look where they're facing. And it's not quite easy to see where they're facing, right? But now that there's a line, it's very, very easy to see whenever you're going to get hit, and so you just never get hit.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that. The issue is like, okay, there are some pulls where visibility is like total horse shit, and I think that like they really need to telegraph mechanics better. But like Lord Chamberlain, for example, it's kind of interesting to think about of like, well, you kind of defeat the purpose of the boss now. Like if it's very, very easy to see where he's throwing the statues, like that was the boss, right? Same with the tornado guys. Like there wasn't really that much going on those platforms with the tornado guys to the point where like that's your attention, right? The whole time that you're on the platform, you're looking at those tornado guys, and it sort of like deletes the mob in a way when you make it more visible. I just think. Well, sorry, I just want to point out that, again, we were talking about like mobs fleeing or whatever, or stuns. And I guess the only thing that I worry about this direction of M Plus is like, we sure are eliminating a lot of different types of mechanics that existed in the game before, right? Like we're kind of thinning out the variety if we're like, we really hate tank busters and we really, we want everything to be super visible and we don't want any mobs to flee and we don't want any stuns. And it's like, I feel like the developers have to be running into a little bit of an area where they're like, how do we keep making new mechanics like in every single dungeon to like challenge players when everybody hates every single mechanic?
Yeah, I think that's totally true. Like the one example I think that like of a mechanic that will never need a visual is Croesus. Do you remember Croesus in the Nighthold? Big guy at the end of a bridge.
Yeah.
Totally broke the bridge. His one like main mechanic that everybody knows is he will lift one of his arms up in the air, and that's the side that he's about to blast down that side of the bridge. No visual needed on the ground because it's so fucking massive that he's raising one of his hands up. You cannot miss it. Like that's the type of an example where visibility has to be number one for the players, which doesn't always have to involve a visible line on the ground. You can use other things like if, for example, like the coins on One Armed Bandit, like the line didn't extend all the way at first. Remember that?
Sure.
Like how it didn't go all the way back, it didn't go all the way into melee, which theoretically is a mechanic that should speak for itself. If you have visibility, if you're playing top down and you see the start of a line, you know you could geometrically determine where that coin is going to go.
You geographically tell.
You geographically know where the coin is going to go. But like, because you're not playing top down, a lot of the times the coins are coming from behind. It is super punishing. It's just a one shot if you get hit. They were forced to change the visual because of just how punishing it was.
Yeah, sure.
So it doesn't always need to come down to a line on the ground, but the gameplay does in a lot of cases have to come first. And looking at a tiny little model on the ground of like an NPC and being like, which way is this boss facing for a frontal was never good gameplay.
Yeah.
It still isn't good gameplay. But if they could find other ways to kind of indicate what a mob is doing that isn't just look at the boss model, like I could see a case where like a boss puts like a hemisphere above its head or something, or like indicating which side it's about to attack or type thing. It doesn't need to be like completely disassociated with the boss, but there are ways I think to indicate what kind of attack it is without showing a ground pattern that is still clear to the players.
Side note, I think that Blizzard on this third boss, just like kind of tagging along with what you're saying, they need to first off have the lanterns spawn faster relative to the ghosts because this fight is brutal, and secondly, they need to be able to indicate like where you're supposed to be taking like one of the active lanterns because it's this like red on red thing. I'm even watching back the VOD and I can't even tell when this lantern spawns. Frankly, I'm like trying to and it's also like it does a lot of damage whenever. One of the things that they changed about the third boss in here is they made the ghost pulse AoE do insane amounts of damage, and if you have it out for more than 15 seconds, you're probably wiping. And so I think that the lanterns need to spawn a little bit earlier. That way you can pre-position behind them. And it also needs to like have a glowing visual, especially if it's just recently that you can tell that you need to take it to. But I mean,
well, I think as long as the lantern is there before or as the ghost spawns there, then it won't really be a problem because you'll just be able to see it. You know, like the problem is that you have to find it like while there's mega chaos going on.
I mean, this ghost is doing this pulsing AoE effect that's like taking up our entire play space too.
Yeah,
it's kind of
like ideally, in my opinion, the way the boss should play is you like before the ghost spawns, you should know where the canister is and know where you're gonna have to go, and then you go there. So I don't necessarily think they need to change the canister visibility, but just make sure it's there. The thing is, in Shadowlands, this was a boss where it
did nothing.
it was essentially I believe it was M0 skilled for the entire expansion, and I just never said anything, and no one ever said anything because we don't want it to be hard. And so I'm pretty sure they finally realized that when they brought back the dungeon, and now they made it so that guy like ramps a ton of damage. And so now putting the ghost in the canister right away is actually really important. The issue is that the canister spawn time is the same as the ghost spawn time. So in the ghost, let's say the ghost takes like 5 seconds to get to a canister, right? Well, the first 4 ghosts, it doesn't matter. But then once one needs to respawn, you have to wait 5 seconds before you know where the canister is. And so then like the ghost is following you, but then the canister might be on the other side of the room, and then instead of being 5 seconds, it's like 10, and then you wipe because it's literally like triple the damage by then.
Like, let me play devil's advocate here. If it's spawned beforehand, the mechanic is functionally useless. Everybody would just go stand behind the canister on spawn.
Okay, so currently there's no real counterplay of doing this boss. You end up just wiping if that situation that Growl presented. Which is a very natural and common situation happens, you just end up wiping. So then the other alternative would be reduce the ghost damage down to near 0. That way you don't actually have that problem. Or change. Better. There's no positioning better.
If you don't know where the canister is spawning, you stand in the middle of the room.
The ghost kills you. You can't stand on like the ghost spawns in the middle of the room is the problem.
Yeah.
Does the ghost still have the bonus AoE in the middle? I thought they got rid of
Sure,
that.
it also melees.
I think it
too.
melees you. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying too. Like that also could be a
Yeah,
thing,
like-
but
Maybe if it did melee, it'd be okay because, like, realistically, from a game design standpoint, it is not an interesting mechanic if the strategy is the canister spawns and everybody just goes stacks up behind it the entire time.
Yeah, sure.
well,
that's
also
not-
there's other stuff going on too, right?
Right? There's like swirlies and stuff, but like fundamentally, why does that mechanic exist then
There-
if it just kind of forces your entire team to move
there's
around every
there's
so often?
debuffs that go on 2 different players that have to be dispelled. That one can be dispelled and one has to be healed off. There's a kick and there's ground effects. So like having all 5 people behind a singular canister is not really
Sure,
that
but
good.
you could be in the area. Like, I think it's just overtuned right now because
I mean,
realistically,
that's also true.
that
yeah.
is minimum. It's overtuned, but
the biggest thing is just it. I think it's interesting that you have to quickly identify where the canister is when it spawns, which is its own problem, and figure out the fastest way to get there alive to minimize the heal, like the raid damage. I think that is interesting. There's not many things where it's like, the developers constantly talk about how to make people think on the fly that isn't dictated by weak auras, right? They're like, oh, canister spawning northwest. Everybody go stack up on the northwest on this one. Like,
sure.
this is canister spawning now. Who has it? How do I get this ghost in there the fastest?
If they want to do it like that, they also need to be able to make sure that you are able to quickly identify when the new canister is spawning and where it is
That is
spawning.
the big thing.
Because-
Yes.
Right.
Because this look at my camera angle here. Like I literally can't see like one of where the canister is spawning. And then
Well, then the
it's
point would just be that it's radically overtuned. Like basically,
yeah.
you can't live.
There's some changes
you
they
can't
have
live
to
that
make.
extra
Yeah.
5 or 10 seconds or whatever necessary.
Like
with all the
that I
damage
will
going
agree
out.
with. Like there should be a canister has spawned like raid warning that comes from the game like at the start. I think those would make the mechanic way better than just like making the canister spawn early. That's my personal opinion.
I think that's fine too. I think that both ways of changing it are totally reasonable. What's not reasonable is how much damage it does. Like the current tuning
Yeah.
and what it is currently is very unforgiving. It's kind of like having. It's kind of like the difference between having 5 of the candles up on Candle King versus having 7, for example. And you're just like, wait a second.
Yeah. Just so you know, by the way, the close damage is gone. Like there's no extra damage from being close to it.
Oh.
But the damage was all rolled into the AoE damage. So you're always too close to the mob now. So that's why it's probably hitting so hard.
Okay, I see.
I guess I'd have to test it. I don't remember, but from playing in Shadowlands, you could never stand next to that thing; it would kill you.
Yeah, now that's just the base damage.
Yeah, you couldn't sit next to it. Yeah, but then you just kite it out for a couple of seconds, and then you run over to the canister. That's like not a big deal. Okay, cool stuff we've seen this week. Squishy's got some music for us.
Yeah, so I have a big rant on this too. DIMENSIUS music. I timestamped it for you, Tettles. Hopefully he's gonna play it.
It's playing. Keep talking.
Great. Well, this is the Phase 3 track of DIMENSIUS. Sorry if you. Oh, we probably should have spoiler warning this. Tettles spoiler warning this in post.
Oh, it's the spoiler.
Wait, you
DIMENSIUS is
spoiled
coming,
music?
or people care
No,
about
no
spoilers
spoiler
for music.
warning. No spoiler warning.
What's the spoiler about music? You get a spoiler warning that's on Wowhead's YouTube channel.
It's, if they're subscribed there. But yeah, either way, this entire track, this is probably the best music I've heard in WoW. And it's coming in during a raid boss. It feels very Final Fantasy-esque or like Lost Ark-esque, where they have a very, like, each phase of DIMENSIUS has a different theme. A very different theme. And I think that's awesome. I've wanted this in WoW for a really long time.
This
You
raid
guys listen to it?
does look pretty good. I have not listened to it before now, no.
Yeah, so I fucking love this shit. Like, Destiny has this as well. I play lots of MMOs. They all have, like, really unique soundtracks. I think DIMENSIUS with this soundtrack is a music on boss.
WoW
Which
is so
is not something I say about WoW often.
WoW is so interesting because WoW is normally a game where you listen to your own music.
Yeah, or music off. Like, the biggest issue is that music in WoW just is, like, an endless cycle of music that doesn't, like, ever relate to the actual combat encounter. But to my understanding, especially like if you had music on this last tier, when you got on the ball of sticks, it played a unique track.
I feel like you're being a little hard on the WoW music. I think the WoW music is pretty good.
The
Like,
WoW
I think
music is very.
I've actually had multiple music on bosses in this raid and like the last couple raids.
I completely agree with you. The WoW music is very good, but if you ask people what a boss theme is or a raid theme is, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you because it's not ingrained directly into the boss encounters. Like if you ask a Final Fantasy player about boss-specific music, if you ask a Destiny player about boss-specific music, they will probably be able to tell you. But not WoW, because the WoW music is fantastic. Like, I think especially like one of my favorites is the Zandalar theme, the City of Gold type thing. And but for the raid and dungeon encounters, the music is just on loop the entire time. No like extra looping or additions due to phases, phase progression. Like music can very much tell a story, and it's never really told that story before this boss. Like if you listen through all of this, you can see the progression and probably guess what's going to happen in the encounter between the phase 1, the phase 2, and the phase 3 themes.
Okay, so you've listened to all the music. What's gonna happen? What are we gonna see on the boss?
He's not allowed to predict because he knows.
I don't know if I'm allowed to predict.
Okay, oh word. He's seen the signs.
But yeah, I'm a music nerd as well, so I love this. If you manage to like even on normal, just turn on the music and see what you think when this comes out. I bet it's gonna be amazing.
Or alternatively, you could watch Sanghelios' POV during the race world first, and he plays with always music on.
True.
Assuming that he's in. I don't really know what's going on with any of the specs that he plays, but we'll see.
I don't know. I mean, he's like a dragon one trick, so like hopefully dragon's good for him.
It's the days of him playing Moonkin.
Mm-hmm.
True, actually.
What one
dragon mains?
Yeah, like if they do this right, it's entirely possible that people who are very good at auditory sounds can relate like in-game like
Mechanics?
abilities or mechanics to the soundtrack itself. Like Tuttles, you know what I mean when I say beat counting, right? For speedrunning?
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who don't know, beat counting is basically speedrunners using a specific point of a song or a track to know when to do something specific.
Talk about being sweaty and a thing. Yeah, if you're beat counting.
I mean, people are going to take every avenue like to make what is going to make an encounter easier. People will absolutely beat count. People do that in other games. There's specific mechanics that are tied to music in other encounters. Like, if this track goes as hard as I think it will, you will probably do that. Why have a weak set out of weak aura with new sounds when you just use the soundtrack that you're listening to anyways?
Because weak auras are easy.
No, I actually think that's really cool. I don't know if I brought it up on the pod before, but my first MDI Shadowlands Season 2 when I played, I actually had different playlists for each dungeon. And I would like start the playlist at the start of the key every time. Not to be like, I wasn't like being super nerdy about it, but I just thought it was like kind of interesting to like, I don't know. I've always like thought about having a strong connection to music and memories. Like I'm sure like everybody has songs where they can relate. Like you hear that song and you think of one exact moment in time that you know, and it's like I feel like I was hoping that maybe that would like help with like remembering stupid, because you know when you do MDI you have all these little stupid tasks and stuff that you do. But yeah, I think that's actually really cool if they have like, you know, a music playlist that you don't mind having on. But yeah, I actually think I wish I listened to music more. That was a habit where I like very early on when voice comms were really shitty quality, I just like got used to turning off all in-game music and then having sound really quiet just to make sure I could hear people. And I just sort of got used to never playing with game music. But I think that actually game music is pretty fucking good now, and then voice comms are actually like good, so you can play it. Like almost everybody plays games with music nowadays.
When I hear beat counting, I think of like Super Mario 64 speedrunning. That's what I think of, and I think of people hitting like triple jumps on specific beats for Super Mario 64 speedruns, or the blindfolded Super Mario 64 speedruns that people do, where they're just like sitting there listening to the music and doing specific things based on the tempo of the music. I'm just like, what? This is the sweatiest shit ever.
It probably won't be that sweaty, but they're like certain circumstances in the past when you know something is lining up with an encounter beat, and you know to exactly do something then. Like it subconsciously, for people that it will help, it will.
Okay.
I'm one of those people. So.
All right, moving on to Q&A. If you want to submit Q&A, you can tweet at the BenchWow on Twitter. And yeah, so we're going to skip on over to Q&A. First question we have up from Megacode. He says, with all the testing you guys have done on the PTR, do you see Season 3 being as much fun as Season 2 was, especially when it pertains to Mythic Plus and raids? Bit of a subjective question here. What are your guys' initial thoughts with this kind of stuff? Do you think that Season 3 is going to be as or more fun than Season 2?
Season 2 was really fun. I think Season 2 was one of my favorite seasons. I think the raid was a vibe. It wasn't like my favorite raid ever, but it was all right. And I think that the M Plus season was like one of the most balanced it's ever been, and I had a lot of fun in it. So it's hard for me to say, oh, this will be as good as Season 2, because like my gut reaction is just no. But
it's hard to be as good as Season 2 was.
Yeah. So I think for someone who's playing a bit more casually, I think if you're just like get 3K or maybe a little bit higher score and like get AOTC and maybe try a few mythic bosses, I think you're probably gonna have a really, really good time. I think the raid vibe is really cool, and I think a lot of the dungeons are like really, really fun at not a cutting edge like nosebleed level. I could definitely see, like, one thing I'm worried about is I think the second to last boss looks absolutely fucking terrifying, and I'm just looking at that as like, this is just going to be a 400 pull boss where half of our guild quits again, and I'm not really looking forward to that. And the dungeons, I think the scaling is going to get out of control, and I think high keys are going to get a little ridiculous this season. But I think most people will really, really like the end of the expansion.
I mean, for me, I'm really excited just because WoW is just a seasonal game for me, and I will come back to WoW every season just to play with my friends, right? Like, I haven't really done anything other than my one day of farm with my guild for the last, like, 2 months, and so I'm excited to, like, do keys and stuff with them again. I'm not pushing. I never push, but I'm excited to just kind of grind out 10s. Like, that, trying to get the weekly 10s in, like, the first week is, like, one of my favorite parts of the expansion.
What do you think about the raids? I mean, like, we've seen all the testing and stuff like that. Obviously, all the raids were pretty undertuned. I was kind of talking with Jack and Kalamazoo today about this, and we were all kind of in agreement that the mechanics of the bosses seem to be a little bit light compared to where they have been in other patches or other raids. What are your thoughts on the raid, just in general?
I'm going to feel like a broken record because I was like this the last two raids as well, which is I think heroic is so much fun. I'm gonna have a blast at heroic.
Yep.
And I'm gonna have a blast with 6 bosses of mythic.
Yep.
And then I'm going to die.
Yep.
Like,
that is exactly right.
I think that is exactly what I've said for the last 2 raids as well, which is that heroic, so much fun. Heroic week, or like doing heroic with my guild and like getting gear and like learning the bosses on heroic is the perfect amount of like fun and mechanics. I actually think they nailed the mechanical complexity of the first 6 bosses. It feels about right. Then you get to Nexus King, and I think I'm going to fucking hate it. It's the one person fucks up and your raid dies mechanics again. And those are never fun. And if true, like, we'll see what happens. I hope it's just like a race to world first thing, and then they immediately kill that boss to fit what I expect to be the regular difficulty curve. Because it's also going to be weird that if 6 bosses are easy, and then you suddenly jump to 7 and have a random wall, that's also not going to feel good.
That's one thing I will commend them that they've done better this expansion, I think, compared to Dragonflight, is I think they've definitely, a lot of people have criticized them for balancing for the race to world first and making ridiculous bosses. And I think more or less true. Basically based off of how many nerfs they come out with in the first month of the tier or whatever. I think that
pretty. I mean, that was always a thing. I'm pretty sure.
Well, my point is that recently they've done a lot better making those nerfs quickly. Like, I remember making a joke in Dragonflight for Tindril and Fyrak that Blizzard was literally watching my stream and waiting for Drogo's guild to kill it so they could nerf it. Like, that was like how long the nerfs would come in. Like, we would be fighting maybe not the very first iteration, but like a non-heavily nerfed, like really, really hard end boss. Like, I'm pretty sure all the raids before then, like, they would not, it wouldn't be like week 3 they nerf the bosses. Like, it would be like 2 months into the raid is when they would start nerfing the bosses. So if they're going to do this like crazy tuning, at least they like nerf it pretty reasonably in. Like, especially the Undermine, I feel like they came in with nerfs to Styx and Sprocket very early. Those were very hard bosses if you did them early on.
The Styx nerfs were wild. I believe they nerfed it Monday night for some odd reason, because my guild was randomly raiding Monday night because somebody was out, like a tank was out or something like that. So I remember that. Then they nerfed it again on Tuesday or something, and then they nerfed it again on Friday. Like, they were really on top of it, but I think that's just because of how early it was in progression.
I mean, dude,
And
we recorded that podcast on Monday, and I'm sitting in that hotel room. I'm like, this is the most overtuned boss I've ever seen, and it's like in the middle of the raid. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It's just I don't really know, man. Like, I'm scared of Nexus King because it's just the type of fight that I feel like me and a bunch of the community hates. But
Lots
they've
of pass
shown,
fails, very difficult.
yeah. Whereas I think the first 6 are going to be relatively well received by the community.
Yeah, I liked. I mean, obviously, it's hard to say because, as you guys mentioned, they were pretty undertuned. But I thought all of the early bosses were pretty fun. Like I thought like all the middling bosses did feel like suspiciously easy though, right?
We
Like,
were talking
there was
about
none of them where it's
Fractilius, or Fractalus, the guy's name.
like,
Yeah, we were talking about that guy being.
Fractilius or
We
whatever.
were talking about that guy being like really, really astonishingly simple for a boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially factoring in that there's going to be liquid weak auras where you just left 4 and you just stand on square and then that's
Yep.
all you do the whole fight.
Yeah.
You're playing Simon Says.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Dylan. He says, I just started my trial with the first Hall of Fame guild. Congratulations. What are some tips to really stand out as a recruit?
Kettles, as the newest recruit here to a guild.
I think trying to meld well with the culture of the guild and just try to like hang out with the people is probably one of the easier things. This is like, that's non-gameplay related. You know, just try to make sure that you have really good just like cohesion with the people in the guild, and that you kind of make yourself always available in one way or the other if they need somebody, especially early on in the season, whenever people are looking for like, oh, we need a body for a 5th for keys, we need somebody that maybe you step up and like will tank Mythic Plus for groups as well. Those kind of things are very good because it also kind of keeps you top of mind for the guild. Something that I also see from a lot of people that I'll raid with is if they're not in on a boss, they just leave. I hate that shit. You should try to be as around as possible, where and continuing to contribute in on a boss, even if you like make it to your first really difficult progression boss. Say you make it to Nexus King and for whatever reason you're not in, just still by being around, that's still very valuable as well. Because say somebody like misses a raid night or something like that, you have already prepared yourself to actually be able to be available and ready to come in, and you kind of know the strategy and you know what's actually going on with the boss, as opposed to just kind of checking out if you're not in on a boss the first couple of pulls of prog. So I think that those are probably some of the most overlooked tips, is just like, you know, try to really integrate yourself with what the guild is, and then also whenever you're like sat on a boss, just try to be around, because especially in a Hall of Fame level guild, you're not going to be on every single boss. It's just not really a thing. Like maybe you will be for the first tier if back owns and you're like sick, but it won't always happen depending on what class you're playing.
Yeah. I think for me, my number one thing is don't stand out, brackets, in a bad way. Don't wipe, like whatever you do, don't be the person that caused the wipe. Like try your best to avoid causing a wipe, because your guild is probably going to have new strategies. You're going to have to learn new things. Like learn the wipe points. And the number one thing that you don't want to do is get in people's heads that you caused a wipe and they don't want you here anymore or anything like that. The second thing then is to stand out in a good way. And that is kind of what Tettle said of, getting to mesh with the guild, communicating, joining keys, preparing for boss fights, that kind of thing. But I think
sorry, finish thought.
I was going to say, like, before standing out in a good way, make sure you don't stand out in a bad way. Because negative feeling is always going to suppress a good feeling.
Yes, something I will say about that is he said don't stand out in a bad way. And what a lot of people's first gut reaction with that is like, don't wipe your guild. You're always like, dude, no matter what's going on, you're going to cause a wipe at some point. It's less about like if you go through and look at logs, take Rashok, for example. If you look at like Rashok waves taken or something like that at the end of a night, and you're like in the middle of the raid in terms of like damage taken from waves, it doesn't matter necessarily if you're in the middle of the raid for damage taken by waves. If people think that you're going surfs up Cowabunga and they think that you're bad, that is arguably more important than the reality of like, oh, I got hit by waves just as much as everybody else. A couple of things that a lot of people will look at is like, first 3 deaths. They normally filter by first 3 deaths at the end of the night, and they're looking at like, are you dying a bunch? So mitigating that kind of thing is obviously very important. Arguably more important than your damage in a lot of aspects, assuming that you're a DPS. Just making sure that you never die. That's like a huge... Those kind of things. What were you gonna say, Growl?
Yeah.
You have thoughts?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. Actually, I think I'm pretty well suited for this because my guild is like right on that border, right? Like if you're like, okay, this is my first Hall of Fame guild, I mean that's pretty much like where we're at.
You also have a lot of trials in your guild every single tier.
Yeah, also I deal with a lot of trials all the time. One thing I'll say is the idea of like playing keys and like doing stuff with people is cute, but for the most part, like your performance during the trial is 98% of it. Like if you're just playing like dog shit and then you do keys, you're probably not getting in the guild.
Yeah.
Likewise, if you play well and then you don't do any keys ever, you're probably still going to be in the guild.
Yeah.
Unless you have like very, very tough competition. I think what Tettle said about being prepared and like paying attention to bosses you aren't in, if you haven't trialed yet, a huge fucking thing you can do is go through, watch the guild's kill VODs or talk to somebody who will tell you what strategies they use and things you need to know so that you don't have to sit here, okay, on Sprocket we do this and we do the drills like this, and then you just fucking drop a drill in the middle of the raid and wipe. Like if you go in, like the first trial that I did, I went through one of the other healers' first kill vids and I watched every single vid and I saw their strats. And then when I showed up to the raid, the raid leader's like, okay, for this boss. And I'm like, I already watched your vid. I know what you guys do. Like, it's fine. I'm ready. And then he's, like, that's, if you say that to the raid leader and he doesn't have to fucking sit and explain it to you for the 50th time, like, he's going to be really, really happy about that. In terms of communication, like, make sure you are open and honest with what's going on with the people who are in charge. Like, if you do happen to have a raid night or you feel a bad raid night or you feel like you weren't playing well, like, communicate that. Like if you just show up to a raid, play like dog shit and be like, damn, I failed that trial, that sucks, like, okay, well, what if you message the raid leader and be like, bro, like I was just having a really bad day, like I definitely trolled there, that's not gonna, like, that's not my normal performance. I feel like that's way more likely to buy you time versus just sitting there and not saying anything and just showing up to the trial and playing bad and just assuming that you failed. Like always be willing to communicate like what's going on or like what problems you had, because like, all right, we had a guy who trialed and he was like on Sprocket, he was like dropping drills everywhere and he had no idea what was going on, and it was like, okay, well, what the fuck are you doing?
Sounds like
right?
me.
You're right. And so then we pull up the guy's past guild and we're talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, my guild never had a strat for drills. There was no assigned places to go.
God.
Every single drill was YOLO. And we pulled up the logs and it was literally true. Like we're watching the map and just everyone is scattered. Like, how like in phase 2, you like go to the walls to like put the drills in better spots so you can run back in. Like they're just everywhere with their drills. It was crazy. And it's like, okay, well, now we know this. Like we expected somebody who prog Sprocket to know this stuff, but actually, that sort of makes sense. Like we're glad he communicated that to us because otherwise he didn't really do that bad. And so, yeah, I think those are like the two big things, but obviously just like playing well is super, super, super important. And what Squishy said about playing well is not standing out bad. That's the most important part. Like the most important part isn't the difference between a 95 parse and an 80 parse. The most important part is that you do the fucking mechanics and that you don't show up and troll. I mean, like that's what playing well means. Like
if you start windmill dunking people damage wise and you're getting like rank 1 parses, yeah, I mean, you're going to stand out in a good way. But I mean, most people aren't that person.
Well, right. And also like if you're dying all the time and getting rank 1s, like, okay, well, you just don't, right? Like that's just, that player doesn't exist. So like, if you're not the player that gets rank 1s, we'll start working on not dying and start like, doing all the mechanics and playing well, and eventually the rank 1 shit will come. Because a lot of the times that, like, getting rank 1 parses is not just, oh, I'm the master of pressing my buttons on a target dummy. Like, usually that has to do with, like, knowing the mechanics so well that you can pre-plan your movement and you know where to be at all times so that you're not wasting globals. And that stems from doing the mechanics well, not from pressing your buttons really well.
If you're already in the guild, they probably already vetted you somewhat. So the most important thing is just not, like, if most people have no opinion of you, that is a good thing. Because you'll probably pass your trial. Because people are lazy, and as long as you're not bad, they will probably keep you there, kind of thing. Like,
how do you get brought? How do you get brought to every single boss as a trial?
that's when you get promoted. I think then you go to step 2, which is like make sure that you're good. Once you know the strategies, you're comfortable with the guild, that kind of thing, the nerves die down because everybody's at least a little nervous going into a new guild. That's when you go for like you're comfortable with the strategy. That's when you can show off.
Yeah. When I trialed in Vesper, I remember like in Vault of the Incarnates, I wasn't in at all. Like Moon kind of shitty in Vault of the Incarnates. The bosses that I was in for, I came in on Brood Keeper. Totally fine on that fight, no complaints. Came in on Razageth, was fine. I've had better bosses, but I definitely had worse, and that was definitely not that bad. And then every single boss in Aberrus, I was just our Mark of the Wild buff, even though Moonkin sucked. Because like once you are in on those bosses, I would try to make sure that you seize the opportunities that you were given, especially in Hall of Fame level guilds, because especially like the first tier that you're trialing. Also, if your spec isn't very good too, like this is also doubly important. Just like being able to seize those opportunities and like show that you can be a capable player, especially in the age of raid buffs for that group, for that guild, especially if you want to be that first copy of whatever class that you have in.
Yeah, what Tunnels mentions, there's a lot of class specific stuff too that you want to make sure that you pick up as well. Like, for example, recognize that. Like if you're playing some super, like if you're the kind of guy who says like, okay, I'll play anything, and you're playing like whatever's batshit OP, like you better be doing crazy fucking damage alongside that.
Oh
right?
yeah.
But also like if you're the Moonkin and if you're there because they need a Moonkin, then okay, well then just don't fucking die. Like be very good mechanically and just don't stick out and just sit there and do your job, right? And it's like, if you're a warlock, for example, right? Like having to tell a warlock and remind a warlock to do shit, like fucking drop hellstones every pull and drop summoning stones and make sure the gateway's pre-pull, like on there before the pull if you need to, right? Like all the class specific stuff, so that when someone raids with you, they're like, okay, this guy plays this class. Like he knows what he's doing and he's doing what his job is in the raid, Like if you just show up as a warlock and you're like, yeah, I'm fucking blasting, and everyone's like, having to ping you 4 times to drop health stones, like, bro, can you click the summon after you drop it? Like, those sort of things. Like, okay, well, maybe this guy doesn't really play warlock if he doesn't even do this shit.
Do you guys abuse liquid reminders in both your guilds? Like, this is gonna be my first.
I do personally, but our guild, I don't think everybody does.
Because I remember Anduin, I set up like for our entire guild like very timer specific things for all of the mechanics. And then I remember on Raz, I ended up setting that up for Vesper as well. But I wasn't using liquid reminders. I was using that really budget version Weekoro, where I had like 20 different
Kaze thing.
Yeah.
My personal opinion on those is, I don't like, if I have all that set up, I'm not playing the game. Like at that point, like I'm just pressing buttons when some AI tells me to. Like,
it's much less fun.
I think it's less about AI and it's more like, okay, these are the. All right, I need to really make sure that I press my stamp roar here, and I really need to make sure that next is going to be I'm going to be running and doing this thing. It makes it almost impossible. It's like a level of research where I find it hard to fuck up.
I personally don't use that. I just learned the timings of when it's supposed to press that.
Okay, that's fair.
I find it more fun that way. Even if for me personally it causes 1 or 2 less pulls to go my way. I don't think that is going to for the long term. There are certain people who I do feel like needs it because they're just randomly will forget something 300 pulls in. But like there are people out there who once they may take a little longer to learn it, but once they learn it, it's locked in.
Can you please give a name?
Me, I'm the locked in guy.
No, I will use the guy. The noobish person. Can you give a name for the noobish person?
You. I don't know if I'm being serious.
That's the end of the episode. Episode 54 of the bench. Goodbye, everybody.
The noobish person.
The noobish person.